Here comes quorum number 4.
Quorum is here.
All right, we're rolling. Actually, we had a quorum because I was here, so.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending this evening's festivities. We are located at 8 North Elmhurst Road in the city of Prospect Heights for the purpose of meeting in the hallowed halls of our council chambers regarding a workshop session. So if we could go ahead and make sure we have a quorum by roll call.
Okay. Alderman Messer. Here. Alderman Rosenthal.
Here and ready.
Alderman Williamson.
Here.
All right, Alderman Ludwigson is on his way. It's probably miserable up there, is that right?
Yeah, it's getting slippery.
Yeah. Okay, well,
And
we're
Alderman
going to go
Doyle's
ahead
not
and get
coming.
going. We've got an agenda. Everybody has their agenda. All right. Joe, why don't you go ahead and start?
First item of business, Mr. Mayor, is the Pledge of Allegiance led by Clerk Wendy Moore-Young.
All right.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, Joe, you're going.
And no invocation tonight. First item of consideration is the minutes of the December 12th regular workshop meeting minutes. Any additions or corrections?
None by me. Move approval.
Second.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Okay, Alderman Rosenthal.
Aye.
Alderman Messer. Aye. Alderman Williamson.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
Next item are presentations, and we'll go to item 6B. This is the USS Arizona flag presentation to the Prospect Heights Police Department.
I'm going to read it because I want you to present it. You were the cause of all this.
Oh, okay.
Pearl Harbor.
Good girl. You know, she made it happen. I think it's really relevant that I do the reading and you do the presentation. All right?
Okay, all right.
So who are we going to call up?
Al Steffen, our chief
He
of police.
himself.
Yes.
The chief. Good. All right. You want to face your
Yes.
constituents here? Your reason that we're here, of course. This is a certificate regarding the USS Arizona, and it has the ship's seal. It is a certificate of flag presentation to Prospect Heights Police Department. In tribute to the more than 2,400 lives lost during the attack on Pearl Harbor, the nation ensign flag, does that sound right?
National ensign.
Flies continuously from the flagpole mounted on the battleship USS Arizona, ship number BB39, during the hours of darkness, and the ensign is illuminated. Sticker from the active list in 1942, the Arizona resting in 38 feet of water and is no longer in commission. Special permission was granted by the Secretary of the Navy to fly the United States flag over the ship in memory of the brave men, women, and children killed during the attack on the morning of December 7, 1941. The United States flag accompanying this certificate was raised and lowered on the Arizona Memorial on December 7th, 2016 at 1351, 75th anniversary. It's signed and authorized this date by Josephine Ashwell, the superintendent, and J.V. Fuller, Rear Admiral of the U.S. Navy.
And, Chief Steffen in Fort Prospect Heights Police Department is a special tribute to the Prospect Heights Police Department for their many caring acts of public service above self during this past year. my husband Ronnie Adams and myself, Wendy Morgan Adams, commissioned a flag in honor of the Prospect Heights Police Department to be flown over the USS Arizona on the 75th anniversary of the attack of Pearl Harbor. The flag was, as Mayor Homer said, was raised and lowered on the Arizona Memorial in your name and honor on December 7, 2016 at the hour of 13:51. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, you can have it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, I guess we'll get it.
One more.
Oh, sorry.
Social media.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Wendy, that was great. Were you on the Arizona when you went there?
I've been in Arizona.
Is that right? I've never gone there. I've read a lot about it. I'm just reading a book right now about Pearl Harbor.
It's
It's,
a great
it was a
experience.
tragedy. Great story, but a tremendous tragedy.
Yes.
All right, well,
Next item of business is a proclamation honoring a good friend of the city's, Tim Jones, for service to the community and city commission, the City Plan Commission Zoning Board of Appeals.
you're going to read that.
Okay.
Tim, come on up here, please. Are we good here, Pat? Can you get good pictures?
How are you?
Tough place to do it. Do you have any family members?
No, just me. Dr. Jones.
Like an Al here, kind of like your girlfriend.
You're on camera.
That's all right, he knows it.
All right, Wendy's going to read it.
This is a proclamation in honor of the exceptional public service contributions by Tim Jones to the city of Prospect Heights. Whereas Tim Jones has been devoted to public service in the city of Prospect Heights since he joined the fire department in 1982 and has been an inspirational and unflagging leader. And whereas Tim Jones has worked as a trained paramedic, lieutenant, and battalion chief until becoming deputy fire chief in 2000. And whereas Tim Jones became a full-time employee at the Prospect Heights Fire Protection District in 2001 and continues to serve as deputy chief as well as a member of the statewide incident management team that responds to declaration of disaster issued by the governor. And whereas Tim Jones is a dedicated, hard-working public safety enforcement professional who during his tenure as chief excelled in hiring, promoting, and developing competent fire and emergency medical services. And whereas Tim Jones has been involved in many aspects of service to this community, most notably as a contributing member of the Plan Zoning Board of Appeals since January 3rd, 2003 until November of 2016. And whereas Tim Jones has been instrumental in determining and effecting recommendations to the City Council from the PZBA, and whereas Tim Jones has been part of numerous other programs and community events too numerous to catalog, including chairing the Community Day event and being part of the annual Secret Santa to help less fortunate youth during the holidays. And whereas the City of Prospect Heights wishes to honor Tim Jones for his remarkable contributions to our city and the Prospect Heights Fire Department, and thank him for his dedication to the City of Prospect Heights. Now therefore be it resolved that Nicholas J. Helmer, Mayor of the City of Prospect Heights, Illinois, acknowledge and commends the contribution that Tim Jones has made to the Citizens Council and staff of Prospect Heights and the greater community, and congratulate him for continuing to make that same contribution to the aforementioned.
Wow, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have many more fans besides the mayor. The city council passed this.
Thank you very much.
And staff, I put it in a straightforward, they love you. Things have done extremely well when you're in charge of something.
Yeah.
And we're all proud.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Again, thanks.
Gonna get a picture?
Thanks, Patrick.
Thank
Thank you again.
Okay.
Thank you all. Have a great meeting. I'm going home.
Thanks, Ken.
It's much like to hang out with you, but I'm going
Yeah.
home. Thanks, everyone. Thanks.
All right, you see that Wendy has found a permanent job at reading these things.
Yes.
Did a lot better than I did. All right, let's move on.
Mayor, if we can go back to presentations, we have the Police Pension Board presentation by Pension Board member Sal Palazzolo.
I'm just going to introduce myself. For those of you that may not know who I am, Jerry Coglanese from, obviously, the police department. I've been on the board as president for about 15 years now. And when I took over the board, it was at about 24 to 26% funded. And throughout the years, we've brought that funding level sometimes, certain years, up into the 70 percentile range. With the help of the fellow board members, we have two professional finance, as Sal Palazzolo here runs his own investment company, and Jim Brophy was on the Mercantile Exchange, and also on the board is our former chief of police, Bruce Morris. And Bill Seward, obviously. So with that vast knowledge of people and with our investment firm and our representation from our attorneys, we brought that funding level, with the help of the city, to a respectable level. I'm going to leave the hard part up to Sal to present the numbers and what he's done. So I'll turn it over to Sal.
Good evening.
Sal, good evening. You want to step up to the podium? It might be a little easier to talk. Thank you.
You got enough?
Anybody able?
Have we got a booklet? Good evening, everyone. My name is Sal Palazzolo. I am a volunteer trustee on the board. I am not the financial advisor on the pension plan. Heard a few things were said at our last meeting. I'm not here to throw anyone under the bus. I just want to get to the facts. I hear there's a lot of white noise. So I brought together a presentation that we put together based off of some information that we get from several different parties. So with that, I'm going to start with the first one. You're going to notice the first page, this is the actuary that was hired by the city. Is that correct? Okay. It's dated 7/20/2016. I'm going to keep that date in mind because I'm going to show you some charts later in the presentation showing you what the numbers are coming.
Sal, you're on page 4.
I am on page 3 where it says introduction for the actuarial report, dated 7/20/2016. I just highlighted the date on it currently. I'll show you why I highlighted that later. Let's go into Exhibit A. I understand that it was stated that the fund
Excuse me,
law...
can you reference the page number it's on?
Exhibit A, page 4. Okay. Let's talk about the health and pension plan first. This was the actuary based on the plan sponsor funding policy, future expected plan contributions, and funded status. The plan is expected to produce adequate assets to make benefit payments when they are due. The benefit payment default risk or financial health of the plan sponsor was not deemed to be material. Just want to make sure everyone understands the plan and the pension is still healthy. Let's go up to section 2 under summary of benefits or results. There was a change with respect to actuarial assumptions from the prior year to reflect revised expectation to respect mortality rates. Middle of the game, rules were changed. People are living longer. So versus the life expectancy that this was supposed to fund for a life pension, they changed it. So now people are living longer, so they added longer longevity to it. What it doesn't say in these first few pages, which it does say later in the booklet, is that this fund is supposed to do 7% every year, which is kind of difficult to do with a portfolio under $10 million, and under the guidelines, 60% of this portfolio had to be in bonds. After $10 million, the benchmark was reached, then we can slowly move more into equities at that point. But we couldn't do that until probably last year, summer 2015. Even then, we don't just take $5 million and dump it, we move it slowly into the market at that point. Okay? So it's section 1 and 2. So in section 2, they change the rate of longevity, and they expect a 7% net return, which means we're actually expected to do a 7.5% to 7.25% rate of return every single year with a conservative portfolio. I don't make these rules. I just gotta follow them. I disagree with that 7%, but you guys get paid more than I do, so you guys can go fight that. All right, summary of the results, the next page, page 5 of the actuarial report. Section 3. There were no unexpected changes with respect to the fund's investment to the prior year. The annual investment return is 0.99, negative 9 point, or negative 0.99, less than 1%. There was $12 million in the account, 1% is 124,000. I don't know where I understand where the million comes from as far as actuarial expectations of a 7% rate of return, but the fund did not lose 1 million number. It just lost 1% for that one period that it's being reported on.
What does that 1% equate to, Sal?
Actually, it's going through the book. We go to page 8. Actually, you know what? Let me find it first. Go to page 8, investment income should be highlighted in the booklets. That 1% is equated to $124,000. This is not my actuary, this is not my math. This is someone that was hired outside. We didn't pick these numbers out of the air. That's the $124,000. I want to bring your attention to page, I believe it's 16, the actuarial assumptions. This is where we're going to discuss the investment return, 7% net return. You want a 7% or 7.25% net return with a bond portfolio, and at the time we were told that we could not move out of municipals. You want a very conservative portfolio, make 7%, that doesn't exist. We can't buy derivatives, can't buy alternatives, can't buy commodities.
Doesn't exist.
Whoever make these rules, it's very difficult to manage a portfolio this way. Questions?
Comments? The only way you could possibly do it is if you went to junk bonds. And
We can't do that.
We're not allowed
And you're not allowed to do that.
We're allowed to go to municipals with a yield of 4.5. If we're lucky.
Crazy.
Right. Okay. So I just want to show a little bit of history in this. So Exhibit B. I took an 18-month look at this. So we had the January of 2015 to July when this report was completed. You'll notice that it's relatively flat for that 18-month period. The same thing, if I turn the page over, it is the Dow Jones Index. It is the same. 18-month period, showing flat. Now I can manipulate this any way I want. I can show a highlighted line from July to February and it'll show a negative. Or I can show a difference between the August and the July showing a positive. But for an 18-month period, this was flat. It does not include the last run-up that we had here in the fourth quarter. So the report does not show it. Okay? Let's go to Exhibit C.
What page number is that, please?
It'd be right up behind Exhibit C. Just turn the page. Yeah, just turn the page.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So 2013 and 2014, time weighted return was 6.93. There was 9.9 in the portfolio. Turn the page. 2014 and 2015, 6.36. It's pretty close to 7%. And we're at 60% in bonds. Okay. The report was generated on the 5/15 year, which shows the negative 1.16, which is your $124,000 get loss. Okay. Let's go into 2016. Because in 2016, which is the last page, will show a 5-year average of 5.52. For the year to date on this portfolio, did 5.62. And the reason we're at a 5.62 is because we moved to short duration bond portfolios last summer when Janet Yellen was threatening to raise rates. So we moved and hedged against that movement. Otherwise, we'd be less than 5%. We'd probably be around 3.5. Yes, sir.
Does the rules that you're operating under, does it have a length of maturity you can invest in the bond?
No, now we can go into short-term durations, that's what we did.
Okay.
So last summer,
So nothing is, how far out is?
I think the longest now is 2 years. We
2
took,
years?
yeah, we took pretty short, 3 to 6 months for the
Yeah.
most, a couple of them are out there. So. We're also able to go more into corporate bonds. So we were able to get rid of some of the municipals and go into corporate bonds, which gives us a better, higher yield. We're also able to, because we're now hitting over the $10 million, go into more of an equity position. We couldn't do that until we hit that 10 million. And just because we hit the 10 million, doesn't mean we can just take 5 million right off and move it in. We had to move it in slowly.
Can we ask questions, or you want to?
Can he ask questions?
Yeah, can I ask any questions you want?
The report before I got this, I was looking at, was the third quarter of 2016.
Okay.
And I noticed in the asset allocation, you were somewhat around 10% of non-US bonds and stocks.
Right.
What are those primarily that you've got them in?
The big corporate bonds. So you're looking at Toyota, you're looking at large corporation corporate bonds.
So it's large cap?
GlaxoSmithKline is one of those. So they're large cap bond portfolios.
Okay.
Right. So one of them being GlaxoSmithKline, which is an English company that's a bond.
Okay.
a foreign bond.
If I may,
Yes, sir.
my question is for Stephanie. Stephanie, at the last meeting, you threw out a number of a loss of 1.3 million. Now, I'm seeing an actual loss of 124,693. How do you come up with 1.3 million?
And Sal and I talked about that. What we did, if you take the lot 7%, because what happens is this, the actuary comes up with, you are supposed to have a return of 7%. If you don't get that 7%, so we lost 1%, plus we were supposed to make 7. So we technically lost 8 because our financials, based on where we need to be to maintain our percent funding, is based on the 7%. And since we actually lost technically 8 because we were supposed to make, we didn't lose it, but we were supposed to make 7. Our analysis and what we have funded, that's why we went from a 6.62% funding to a 57% funding, because that million, so it'd be 8% of $12 million is what we should have made to be at the current funding level that we would want to be at. So that's what that is.
But that still only equates to 850,000?
Plus,
Where's the other
we
350?
have
Or
12
450 for that matter?
equals this.
I'd also like to say, I mean, how do you lose what you haven't gained? When you say you have, you're calling that 7% a loss, that 7% is not a loss, it just underperformed and you've lost 1.
Well, I'm not sure if that's what I said at the last meeting,
That's what I remember.
but technically, we were expecting a 7% return. So that's why, because I think the question is, why do we go from 62% funding to 57% funding? And so that's the reason, is because we were anticipating an 8% return.
I understand the concern, I do.
Right.
I respect it. But I'm still trying to find the 450,000 that goes between the 750 and the 1.3.
Yeah, and I kind of agree with what you're saying, because the rules you're given to operate under are unrealistic in terms of what the market is doing.
Right.
If you can find 7% return, please tell me where it is.
7% conservatively.
I'd like to know that too.
Right, conservatively.
Conservatively, yeah, too. So I agree with you. To say we lost, wait a minute, to say we lost it, we didn't lose it because we didn't get it. And there was no, in my thinking, and granted, I am not the expert on it, but I've been involved with the investments for quite a while. I don't know of any way where you'd make that. Where you have to have a blended fund with conservative bonds in this day and age. And that's going to get worse in the next few months as this honeymoon, I think, with bonds is about to end.
Well, once we took, last year we started going into short duration portfolios.
That's why I'm glad you're short term.
Yeah, we're short term, because we're expecting the rates to go up.
Right, and your laddering in that fixed income is good.
And just so you know, Wall provided the rates of return to our actuary, and I have them right here, and they range anywhere from 11% return, from 4.29% return to 11% return. So those numbers were given to the actuary from Wall. So they're not, so that's what he's anticipating his rates of return to be. And I have that if you want to pass it around. So it's not that they're told they have to do this. And Sal and I also talked about reducing the rate to potentially 6%, but Wall provided that information to our actuary. So that's what he was expecting the rates of return to be, between 4.7 and 11%, and I provided that to you, so you have that.
You add that with the increased longevity of the portfolio, all of a sudden we're looking like we're not performing.
But if I'm reading this correctly, that includes equities in here.
Sorry?
If I'm reading this correctly, the 11.7% is actually equities.
If you have
They're
the
still
portfolio,
projections, aren't they?
And they're projections, I think.
These aren't
yeah.
solid numbers. I mean, these aren't identifying losses.
No. But what happens is this: once those numbers are given to the actuary and we fund it, and we're funding based on that return, which we're expecting, and that return's not there, our funding level is 57-point-something%, and 57.68%. If we're audited potentially by the pension insurance fund or the Department of Insurance, that is not a rate that they want it near 70. So we would be written up. And because other municipalities I work at, we're written up for that. So I know that. So the concern I have is that we want to be conservative so that we fund as much as we can into that fund, so we need to be 100% funded by 2040. And if we lose, and so if we anticipate too much, we're not funding enough. That's the concern I have. And what the actuary told me is that we would need between $1 million and $1.3 million to get us to 70%. And that's why we can't get there, because we would have to put in as a city $1.3 million to $1 million based on Tim Sharp's numbers to get us to 70%.
So you're saying if that loss of $1.3 million didn't exist, we would be at 70%?
Yes.
Okay, now,
Well,
I go back to, it's not a loss.
Exactly.
Okay? You can't call it a $1.3 million loss. As far as I know it, and I don't know if this includes the people who left and took their pensions with them.
That was 2 years ago. It was not this year.
Was it? I
It was
thought Joe.
2 years ago it was. It was not in this fiscal year, it was in the year before, and that was at our 60% funding.
I can't confirm or deny that.
I have it right here.
But we're basing this on the year ending 16.
Correct.
So that goes all the way back to,
well, this only goes to May 1st of 16.
15 has the numbers in it.
Right, it doesn't go to this last quarter.
And I see the numbers here. I see what you're saying, ranging between 11.77 down to 4 and some change. But the weighted return is 6.62. And from what I'm seeing here, what are our projections for year end?
Let me get to the last page. Last page, 5
Page
pages.
6.
Thank you.
5.62.
So we've underperformed by a point and a quarter, point and a half. So, I mean, the trouble I had with it is, it was very confusing when you threw out this number of 1.3, and then I talked to a friend of mine who is on the board, who better explained it to me, and the 1.3 number didn't jive.
Well, the auditors were here, and the numbers were presented, and it showed the actual $132,000 loss. And then I started to explain why I was concerned and why the amount went from 62% to 57%. And that is a concern when you have to be 100% funded in 23 years.
Right, but the backing, it falling from 61 and some change to 57 and some change was a combination of a loss, it was a combination of an underperforming fund, it was a combination of a change in longevity, it was a combination of several things. The way you presented it was the board did something wrong and they lost money. And that's not the way that it is. So, I want it on the record that the board hasn't mismanaged this fund. It was the information that we got that was not correct. And in the future, I'd ask, this information should be discussed behind closed doors before we're putting out assumptions in public. So, I've said my piece.
I just have a question about, it sounds like what you're saying that is if we don't stay at 70%, we can be in trouble by the regulating body for these pensions. Why then, if we haven't been at 70% over the past, how many years? I don't know. I don't know if we've ever been at 70%, have we?
Not my
I
time.
mean, if we were, it was for a year or two.
Yes.
How come we didn't make adjustments budget-wise to increase our contribution in years where we had surpluses to get us to that point, so we're not relying just on income, on investments? Because the only variable that we can change as a council is our contribution. Other than that, all the other variables are fixed by regulations, by law, by everything. The only thing we can change is that one input. Why haven't we been putting...
We have.
I know this in this budget year, we're 100,000. That's...
No, we have. Since the first year I was here, we did not. Then after that, we have been putting in more than the actuarial amounts. And there's two,
What was that based on? What were those increases based on?
We just added extra money into the fund because, and we had talked about that at the second year I was here, that we have not funded and we were starting to put money in, and we decided to start putting money in. And we put extra money in, and we have the last probably 4 years.
But not on any kind of plan to get us to where we need to be, right? I mean, if we get to 80%, we can control our input to be what it needs to be to stay in step with the actuarial study. But why has that not been suggested? They can't tell us what to put in.
Well, we've been increasing 2% and 3%. So if the returns had been consistent, we would not have been at the 63, we would have been closer to 65. But we did not get the return, so we had a loss this year, and because of that, there is no way we would have put an extra $1.3 million in there to get us to even be at the 62%. We would not, there's no way that any of us would have estimated there would be a loss this year, and that we would have to put in
But there's
another
been,
million.
according to how you calculate it, there's been a loss every year. I mean, because we haven't got to the 7% that we're supposed to be.
We haven't had a loss,
on
but
the
we've
assumption.
been increasing our percentage funding.
It just seems like it's been a plan that hasn't really been planned out on our increases to make sure we stay at that 7% return or the 70% fundedness. So it just seems to be a number that's grabbed.
Let me ask you as an expert, and I think I know how you're going to answer, but I'll ask it anyway, is how realistic do you think this number of 7% is in the market today?
It's unrealistic, because you're not getting 7. You actually have to aim for 7.5 to net 7. So you're looking at 7.5% every single year minus fees, 12B1 fees, advisory fee. It's unrealistic. 7.5% every year, conservatively, can't do it.
Yeah.
Not with the guidelines that they set.
So I kind of agree with Scott to say it's a loss. It is not a loss. One, it's not money that was there that now has gone away, number one. And two, it's an unrealistic situation that we're in.
Well, I want to just mention, if we can go back to Exhibit C, 2013, the fund did 6.93. We were 7 basis points off of the 7.
Right.
2014, we did 6.36. That 1 year, which is the study is based off, is the 1.16. So it's just that 1 year that we're actually down. But otherwise, the portfolio is performed at 5.52.
Right, but there's two different things. You're talking about the return on the investment. If you only had $1 million in there, you're still only gonna return what you're gonna
Yeah,
return.
6%, 60,000.
But it's 12 million, but our fundedness is something that's affected by how much actual dollars is in there, not your rate of return.
Right.
If we dropped $5 million in here, we'd be 100+% funded.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to get caught up on return. It's our job as a council to fund the amount we need to put in there to make up for this unrealistic return requirement that it's probably.
I just have a problem with the phrase, we lost money. That's what I have a problem.
Yeah, we can't lose what we don't.
Treasurer Tibbetts.
I'd just like to make a couple comments about, going back into ancient history now, the police pension fund was actually doing pretty well through the 90s, and the city,
So was everybody.
Yeah. However, as we approached, I think it was 2000, 2001, or 2001, 2002, the city council actually voted to not fund the police pension for 2 years in a row. That put a big dent in the, train that was on the track at one time. Then, when the economy faltered in 2007, 8, 9, somewhere in there was another big hole in the planning of this train. So there were a couple of events in that last 10 to 15 year period that started putting the fund behind. And then, of course, the additional things that Sal brings up is the fact that we operate, not we, but the fund operates within the guidelines of the Illinois Department of Insurance. It kind of is operating with one hand tied behind its back to a certain extent because it wasn't over $10 million. So I just wanted to point that out, that there were some things that happened that we certainly, in a current council setting, have to deal with, but it wasn't our fault. And that was another reason that the city was granted the ability to put on our tax bill, on our property tax bill, a portion of the contribution to the police pension. Is because that essentially was make-up money in the eye of the, I'm not sure exactly who granted. I guess it was the county clerk that finally let us do that. Is that right?
But it was
Yeah.
just based on the technicality of when we actually started, what was the term they used, when we were abating the tax and not collecting.
Exactly.
So that wasn't really somebody saying, you need to make up the money, go ahead and do it. We were able to find out that we were allowed to do it.
Right. But to this day, that money rolls in from the property tax specifically for police pension. So, I'd like to make that clear.
One more
If I
thing.
may interject, I'm sorry. This is why we enjoy having Sal and also Jim Brophy on the board, because we do have two experts in the financial field. That if our investment advisor tells us something, if they agree, we're all on board, and there are disagreements at times between all of us, and this is a great checks and balance that we have, having two professionals on our board. So it's not just a clear slate and here you go, Dave Wall, invest in how you will, because we have them to put us in place.
And we've had our disagreements. Rich has been in there. You've heard us argue with Dave, disagreeing with things. So we don't sit quietly by it. I am a citizen of Prospect Heights. I have to worry about what's going to happen to these guys and my taxes and everything else. So
Now that they've crossed the $10 million threshold, how do things ease up? What can you do now that you couldn't do?
we can go into more corporate bonds, which is the first one.
And equities.
And equities. We can go into more equities. Instead of 60-40, 60% bonds, 40% equities, you can go up 50-50. And I think the next step is 60% equities and 40% bonds. So we can start turning that around a little bit. Me and Stephanie were talking about some other villages. Schaumburg's got $100 million. They've been in equities, 60% in equities for a long time. You can keep up with that. Vernon Hills, Kildare, they have $39 million, and in Kildare, I believe it was $17 million. So they were well above that $10 million mark. We
You bring up another good point. We're being compared to a shop. But that 7% rate is not based on our size. It's based on, it's based on a return that we have to get, or is that based on some just number that every fund has to achieve 7%? Is that 7 specific to us?
It's what Wall provides the actuary. We could, and Sal and I talks about lowering the rate. So when he gives us our numbers, I think maybe the board we need to talk with the board and say, okay, Wall gave us 7%. Do you guys want to lower it to 6%? So that we can give the actuary the numbers that we feel comfortable with.
I thought the number was regulated, not
Yeah, that's
something.
what
That's what I understood.
It is not regular, and I have 5 or 6 other municipalities, and they range anywhere from, and we can establish that rate that we feel it is.
It's really kind of a non-issue. I mean, it's an ancillary number. We're saying it's 7%, and it's just the way it's interpreted. Is it a loss or is it not a loss? Whether it's 6 or 7%, it's just, it's a goal.
Let's go.
Right, but
Unrealistic.
the actuary, what happens is the actuary tells us what we need to fund. Then their attorney sends us a letter saying, we want you to fund this. We always fund that amount or more. But that amount is based on the 7%, so it's gonna be lower. So if you lower the amount to 6, that means that then we as a city would need to put more into the fund. So what you're getting is a number that is unrealistically low to fund. Do you see what I mean?
Right,
That's
so
where
there's confusion at budget time and what our contribution needs to be
But
to.
the number doesn't mean anything if it's a 70%, we're always having to target to.
It's a gap.
Agreed, yeah. And-
I know,
but-
I was under the impression that there's some regulation out there.
That's
that
what I
says
was too.
7%, but you're saying it's bogus, that's not right?
we could say, we could as a,
Says 7%.
Is it a mandate or is it a
I don't know if it's a
suggestion?
mandate, but when they do their figures and send it to us,
That's
they're
what you
figuring out 7%.
That sounds like a mandate then.
but if you look at all these other municipalities, it's not. We can determine that rate.
Yeah, but the reason why it's not is because they're at 70, 80, 90% funded. If you have $100 million in your account, you don't have to worry about getting 7% to try and get the 2040 figure of 100% funded.
No, like Kildare is 6.25%.
What's their funded percentage?
Their funding percent is 34.4%.
And they only have to put it, they only have to get
Yes.
6%. So how big is their reserve? How big is their account?
Theirs is 3.8 million. It's not that much. If you go to Lake Zurich, there's a $17 million fund. They're 41% funded. They have a rate of return of 6.75. And they had an 8% return last year and then a 0.72% this year. So
This year meaning 15 or 16?
16.
So that's comparable to our .99 then, for 16.
Our -1, they had 0.72.
Right, our negative
Yeah,
0.99.
most municipalities, I mean, most of them did, let's see, their, Schaumburg, Vernon Hills both had losses, Kildare had a gain, and Lake Zurich had a gain. The net returns, there's not a lot of municipalities we can compare to because it's on a fiscal year and most of the other municipalities end in December. But the ones I could compare to, that was the range of their rates of return.
It's definitely, we talked.
Right, and then, and
The
a
10
lot
million
of,
mark is the benchmark. So
Right.
those portfolios are 60% equities.
right, and we
60%
talked about
bonds,
that
so
return,
Can't compare the two portfolios together.
yeah.
Now, Stephanie, you
But
said if we
even
lower,
Kildare's has,
you said if we lower the rate, then that's less that we're funding in,
no, we would fund in
fund in
more.
more.
Because if you lower the rate.
Then we
what-
expect a lower return, so we have to fund more to offset it.
Exactly.
I mean, in the end, nobody knows what the market's gonna do. I mean,
Right.
God forbid it happen, it could crash tomorrow. But, I mean, I think we just need to take it year by year and see what it's doing. If there are years we feel we need to fund more to make up for any economic factors that affected the previous year, then we need to fund more and then hope we have a great year, maybe fund less the next year. But I just think we need to monitor it closely every year then to make sure we don't get too far off target.
And I think when Sal and I talked, I said, if we can get the 5-year rate of return and use that as the return that we're anticipating, that's a more realistic number than 7. And I think it's 5.6.
5.52.
5.52. So if we use 5.5 as a rate of return and establish that as a return we would want to give to the actuary, that would be something that would be more conservative and would then have a higher funding balance. And the thing is that every board has the option they will ask us to put that amount in. And if you really would like the amount to be more conservative, then you lower that benchmark and let them know that's, you know, that's where you would want it to be. And then they would, if they do better, then we look better, and then our percent goes even higher than what we're anticipating.
I don't know why we're focusing on the rate of return. If we have an obligation to be at 100% by 2040, we only have, every year goes by, that's one less year that we can rely on rate of return. Why are we not looking at this to say that we as a city, okay, if we're at 57% right now, that means we're 43% away from being 100% funded, which is a known number of our overall fund balance. And I know it's got to go up as we have new people or people retiring or disabilities, but it's not rocket science. I mean, if we can, but right before our year end, get a rate of return that we're at that point and say, well, okay, that's how much is going to come in investment income. We need to, in our next budget, put in $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 more because we didn't get that on our rate of return, just to keep up with, we have to make up the difference in the 7%. 7% probably gets us to 100% by 2040, but if we don't make up that difference, it'll never get there.
Well, the difference for this year is $1,020,800.
To get us to 70, right?
No, to get us to the 62.9%, to be where we should be at that rate.
So how much of our fund is actually invested?
All of us invested.
So all 12 million is in the market? And we don't set anything aside for payments, or how do we?
Oh, there's cash.
Yes,
There's cash,
that's
yeah.
the,
Yeah,
yes,
they-
the money we get
Right.
from the real estate taxes, that pays.
So
and
every
then-
year, you're funding that, because do we disperse the checks for the pension, or does the fund?
No, a Lauterbach and Amon does, the fund does.
Okay. So all we do is sweep any kind of amount that we think that we're not gonna need to
Let me-
them.
If I could, I'll read this. I'm on the website for the Department of Insurance for Illinois. And it says here, we recommend implementing a 4-tier assumption based on the plan's asset level. After consulting with investment professionals, we believe that an assumption of 5% for the smallest plans, increasing to 6.75% for the largest plans, provides the best estimate assumption for all plans. So, you know, that requirement of 7%, like you had said, Stephanie, is not set in stone. However, that 7% is certainly high, especially given the way the market's performed over the last 3-4 years. You know, we should be planning for something less than that, in addition to what you're saying, planning for the future. I mean, we've got 23 years left in order to fund this 100%. So we should be
But
putting,
the math just isn't making sense to me. If we're short 4% from where we're supposed to be, if we would have made our 7% last year, using that as our benchmark, how is $1.2 million 4% of a $12 million fund?
Wait, say that again?
$1.2 million is 10% of our overall fund balance. So we got to put 10% of our overall fund balance to get to a 4% increase in our fundedness?
Well, I'll calculate it while you're, we are at 12.7.
Because if you want to use the term, we lost 8% of $12 million, what's that in an overall number?
Actually,
It's not 1.2 million.
960. 8 times 12 is 960. Is that what you wanted?
So we're short $120,000 to get us.
That's what it says there, yeah. 129 and change.
So how is it that we need 1.2 million to get us to that percentage? Because we're making the assumption if we did the 7%, we would be at our 62 that we were last year, whatever. I don't know how that's 1.2 million.
on the account right now, Stephanie, if you want to use these values, it's 13,350,000.
That's what we need?
No, that's the ending market value in the portfolio right now.
Oh, right now?
Right now.
All right. so
Well, what we marked
let me
out 13.3.
calculate 0.7.
I mean, we as a council have talked, and it was before this council, and even before the last one, about borrowing the money to fund it so that they could, you know, have, so that we got ourselves to a certain fundedness level. You know, it's our obligation to make sure that we're on that path. If we rely on that 7%, or even if we change that number, it really doesn't matter, because we have to be at 100% until 2040, period.
Right.
I don't care.
But
what
to say this, that's what we've got to strive to get to, whatever that 100% is. But to say because of the market conditions and the other factors you mentioned, that we didn't make it, you're measuring against a benchmark that's somewhat arbitrary. It's not based, typically when you do benchmarks with investments, you're measuring against something else that's in the market, that's independent, that is in that reality too. So you're measuring the same thing. This is not that way. So I agree with what you're saying, is that it's like a goal,
Right.
if nothing more than that. And we have to get to whatever the number is, we have to get to in 23 years.
No, you bring up a good point about the benchmark. I'm on another pension that's got $500 million. And within that, we have 10 different $50 million portfolios managed by 10 different fund
Right.
managers. Some of them are equities, some of them are bonds.
Right.
And we always are measured. I mean, there's a broad range of measurements against the standard, against funds of your size, so that you can see how your manager is doing compared to the rest of the world, or to somebody specifically your size.
And that's the reason why I have one of my questions, or two of my questions here, was I was looking in these reports quarterly reports, where the hell are the benchmarks? What benchmarks are they measuring performance? And I couldn't find any. Now I know why I couldn't find any in the report. Because it's something that's outside. It's not what you think about when you're investing.
But we know, I mean, she rattled off 5 different surrounding towns to say, even if we just use that as a benchmark, we know if we're doing okay. I mean, or what we should be doing.
If you measure against that, then you got to make sure you're doing you're not doing apples and oranges with those towns.
Yeah, but
Because if a town's got 500 million or whatever number, that big number was you gave,
John, but 97 million.
how do you measure them? How do we benchmark with them then? I would imagine their portfolio is a lot different than ours.
Yeah, they're more equities, they're 60%
Right,
equities,
right.
or 60% bonds.
So you can't even use that as a measure. I mean, you can use it, but it doesn't mean anything.
But at least they're following under the same regulations we are, being in the state of Illinois. I mean, we get closer to a real benchmark than just using the S&P to say that's what we should be using. That's not realistic. Or a 7% number.
What they could use, if those who are managing the funds, or the board, what they maybe should do, given the allocation of the portfolio, then they can use some of those outside objective real benchmarks to just measure how they're performing. Those kinds of assets are performing within their fund. You can use it for that reason.
But not when he's saying that they can't even invest, even in the bond fund, they can't even invest in certain bonds. So
Right.
it's just so restricted.
So it still
it's hard to
is
find
it still is a problem. It gets them closer to what reality is, but it doesn't make it so.
Now, we use the S&P 500 or Dow Jones as benchmarks for 50% or 60% of this portfolio, or 40% right now.
Mhm.
I mean, that's a benchmark. We gotta get close to it, above it or below it, as close as we can.
At the end of the day, we're not here to tell them how to butter their bread. We need to know how to project
Right.
the future of us and how we are to fund this so that it is fully funded by 2040. And certainly better that, it's no different than your 401K. You want to start feeding it as young as you can. So let's start talking about it now. I think that this can be part of our conversation on the 12th Strategic Directions Committee, where, we're talking about where to allocate some of these funds.
Correct. I just wanted, if I might ask your opinion, I know 10% is non-US. Do you feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, that's about $13 million, we're talking about 130,000. Yeah. So years ago.
I have a present bias against this, so I have to be honest about that.
Yeah, no, we got 130 out of 13 million. And they're the large cap companies, they're not.
130 or 1.3 million?
1.3 million, sorry.
130,000.
100.
Our pension liability is $22 million. We need to get to $22,123,000 by 2040, and to get to 70%, we would need $15.5 million.
In the fund balance, so that means that we're about what'd you say the fund was today?
12.7.
13.3, so we're
Yeah.
2.1 short to be at 70% today. And who knows if 70% is correct to get us to 100 by 2040, I don't know.
Right.
But there's things that we don't talk about. We've got money, we've got our own reserves sitting in accounts that we're trying to get a quarter or a third of a percent on?
For 0.5, yeah.
0.5? So I mean, why wouldn't we now, if they're allowed, because by law, we can't do anything with that other than leave it in an account that brings us nothing, why wouldn't we, like you're talking about with the 401k, fund the pension higher in these early years where they're able to invest it and get 5.5%?
That's a good point.
Which is 5% more than what we're getting just sitting in
That's
the
a good
account.
point, yeah.
Well, we're gonna get behind the 8 ball if we wait another 15 years to do it.
Can I add one thing?
No.
Out of the money you put in, half of that, almost 500,000 gets paid out in the monthly payments to the pensioners and the disability ones. This year coming up, we're gonna pay out 497,000. So out of the $700,000 contribution and the 300,000 we put in, $1 million, there's only gonna be half to invest.
I noticed in one of the reports, there was a form, I think it was the first quarter of 16, it was 400K that went out and 406K that came back in the same period.
Right.
What was that all about?
Gets moved from a bond account. Once we were able to put more money into
Right.
equity, we pulled it out of one account and put it back into the
Oh,
other.
so it's just a bookkeeping?
It's a bookkeeping issue.
Okay.
yes.
A sweep.
Yes. That's what he was saying, we were gradually, switching the money around.
Yeah, the net amount we put in this year into the fund was 432,000.
That the city put in, and then
The total put in, because we put in 715,000. The employees put in 194. We lost 122,000. We paid out $322,000 in benefits. This year it's going to be higher because we do have 2 more officers who have retired, and then administrative costs of $32,000. So for a net increase in the fund was 432,000.
well, I'm satisfied at this point. I think that, we need to talk further about how we fund it or increase our funding to it so that we are on pace to do something and we're not burdening a future council with having to go borrow money from, from anywhere to fully fund this.
Perfect
I
example
certainly don't
is,
want to pay that tax bill.
coming into this year, we found out that we had additional money after the audit or at the time that our final financials were put together. We should, as a council, just decide that,
Yeah.
hey, we won the lottery that year, but was something we weren't counting on, let's just move it straight there.
I used to call it, and it was one of my, well, I was working for them at the time, my midnight dividends.
Right. And if we just keep up just rolling it into our fund balances of our reserves or doing more projects, like Scott says, we're gonna be putting this burden on some fund or some council 10 years from now.
And your point is very well taken, I think, about the fact that we can't get anything for it. It's just about putting it under the mattress. It would work better all the way around.
We took great pride a few years back in creating this capital improvement fund. And I think that we owe it to ourselves to modify the fund and put this into that fund. So,
Especially money we weren't expecting. And that should be,
when you die and you leave all your riches to the city.
Right.
Can't wait for that.
All right, I think we had a good discussion.
Thank you very much.
A lot of work left to do. Thank you, Sal.
Thanks.
All right, Joe?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next item 8, citizen concerns and comments. Do we have any?
I'm not aware of any.
Okay. Which brings us to 9, staff elected officials and commission reports. 9A is a police telecommunications presentation by Police Chief Al Steffen.
This isn't so much the presentation, but to give you an update on the situation. We've been a member of Northwest Community Dispatch since 1989, 1990. During that period of time, we are a voting member on Northwest Central Dispatch. There's an executive council, and we have representation on the board. But we're also the smallest partner out of all the communities that make up Northwest Central Dispatch. And we're talking Arlington Heights, Schaumburg, Palatine, Mount Prospect, Elk Grove Village, Rolling Meadows, Buffalo Grove. I think I've left out one or two. In 2008, we entered into a project where they looked at updating the records management system and that computer-aided dispatch system that would make everything integrated within all the Northwest Central communities. Moving forward on that, it was implemented 2009, 2010 at substantial cost, and we moved forward with that project, and we did an implementation at Prospect Heights where we switched over all our computer systems in regards to records management to be compatible with what was going on in Northwest Central. Over the course of the next 5 years, the bigger departments were very unhappy with the product that was provided by the vendor. We didn't have an issue with it. It served our purpose as well. We are now looking to go away from the vendor that is providing that service, and they want to enter into another project and redo the whole thing and update accordingly, which will require another significant investment on our part. Estimated right now, if the board authorizes $1 million from their reserves, it'll cost us approximately $100,000 over the course of 2 years, and I will have to make a commitment by the end, or at some point in 2017. I like being part of Northwest Central Dispatch. They certainly provide a gold standard, and it's an excellent service. The only drawback that we have by participating with Northwest Central Dispatch is that we share a channel with 2 other towns, and sometimes it is tough to get airtime when you have both Mount Prospect and Elk Grove talking at the same time. So I've spoken with the director, John Ferrero, at Northwest Central, and told him that we have some concerns about committing to such a big upgrade, especially when we don't need to have a Cadillac system. And he said, well, it can be a la carte, that we can pick and choose what we want, but we're going to have to make the commitment one way or the other. Well, Northwest Central is not the only combined dispatch center around. Wheeling has a combined dispatch center that they dispatch for Des Plaines Police Department and Wheeling Police Department. Glenview, there's at least 5 departments that they dispatch to, and I think that part of my due diligence at least would be to explore the possibilities. It might save us money by looking at other departments, and we might end up actually getting better service as far as not having to share a band with so many other users as a result of doing so. Might not either. But I'm basically expressing to the council that, and again, just for all the reasons that we talked about tonight, I'm looking at trying to reduce our liabilities as well, and still get a quality service that will serve our needs. So as a result, I do plan on reaching out to other combined dispatch systems and do a report before having to make a commitment to Northwest Central to kind of examine our options.
Yeah, Chief, by doing this integrated network, I'm trying to understand it, does that mean that we have sort of simultaneous communication, or they can hear us and we can hear them, and we coordinate better, or something like that?
Right now, we share a dispatch channel with two other towns. We're the third town out. So most other Northwest Central frequencies have 2 towns. We're on the only channel that has 3, and we're too small to have our own.
Right.
So wherever we go, we'll end up being somebody else, most likely. There's no standalone, there's very few standalone dispatch systems anymore. One, because federal regulations have mandated departments below certain numbers look at consolidation, otherwise risk losing funding mechanisms. So what you have is these consolidated systems like Northwest Central, you have Glenview now, you have
Lake Zurich.
Zurich, right, Foxconn up in Lake County.
So when you're on this type of network, if you've got to communicate something, let's say you're town B, and town A is communicating something, are you able to communicate? It's like the old party line then.
What happens is that as soon as somebody keys up, that freezes that network.
Okay, all right. Old party line.
Right, and you can't break in.
Right, okay.
And so consequently, what we find is that a lot of times that our officers are switching over to our public works radio frequency to communicate inter-car. So they'll call out a traffic stop on our local frequency as opposed to one on Northwest Central, which is problematic because now you don't have a dispatcher that knows where you're at. And the only thing that you're doing is letting your fellow officers know where you're at, your supervisor. So I guess my point is being on Northwest Central, even though it is a gold medal dispatch center, also has drawbacks to us because of the fact that we're the smallest town that's a member there. And they got to find some way to fit us in. At the same time, is that if they want to upgrade and if they want to have this Cadillac system, we also have to pay our percentage that goes along with it.
Got it. Thank you.
Well, when you say upgrade, you're talking about the computer systems, right?
We're talking about their records management, their computer-aided dispatch systems, which are all computer-based, yes.
Do they give you, or have they decided yet or determined yet how much it's going to cost to upgrade? And what's our portion? Is it by number of people we have, or is it by everybody getting 1/3 or whatever?
It's by our voting share proportion.
Okay.
And right now, again, the board it's probably going to be $3 to $4 million total to pay for this.
And what share do we get?
Right now, we're looking at, just on the base, what our share to upgrade this is going to be probably about, I believe it was it 50,000?
Sounds about right.
50,000 over 2 years. So it'll be $100,000 to us. Now that's just our share. We will also have to pay for our internal upgrades that we'd have to match to be able to use their system and use their network, and then we'd have to upgrade everything in the mobile dispatch terminals that are in the squad cars. So there's going to be other costs on top of that will be factored in.
And if we join someone else, Wheeling, you mentioned who else, Glenview?
Glenview or...
What does that mean? Are they already upgraded and we pay less?
Well, we're looking for a certain level of quality. You know, we certainly wouldn't want to reduce the quality, but we'd like to go basically by going out and say, hey, can you do this for us, and how much will it cost us?
And we just want to stress, we're kicking tires. We're open-minded, and open-minded means we're open-minded to alternatives, but also open-minded to staying, because other alternatives might also have a buy-in too. So we just want to let you know what, and so you don't hear from somebody else.
What's the new system? Is it StarCom or what is it?
No, we're already at StarCom.
Okay.
What they are unhappy with our current system is ID Networks.
Mhm.
They provide our records management and our CAD system.
Okay.
And apparently the dispatchers are very unhappy with ID Networks because it doesn't do things that they would like it to do. And there's other vendors out there that can provide a better
And which
system.
one are they going to?
Well, right now, we're in the process, we've had Tyler Industries come out and provide a demo. We're looking at the next, is TriTech, I believe, is the next group that's coming out to pitch it. Over this year, we're going to be interviewing a number of vendors, and then they'll make the selection based upon those interviews. We can talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk later.
It's kind of good you're going out that way because it gives you a certain amount of leverage.
All right, let's go around the table. Is there a walkaway cost from Northwest?
We invested in 2010 in their radio upgrades to bring us to the StarCom level of operation, and it would, at the time, it was a $5 million upgrade. I was told, and I've been asking to try to get a hard number on this, that our portion of what's left would come to be about $200,000, between $200,000 to $220,000.
Everybody have to pay?
If we walked away.
If we walked away. All right, Alderman Williamson?
Thank you. Chief, so we pay a portion, okay, a percentage, if you will.
Right.
So if another municipality or community decides that they're going to walk away in this time frame as well, then our portion would increase?
Correct.
Okay, or if they joined, it would decrease?
Or it should decrease, yes.
And it sounds to me from like what you said that it's kind of a trend that departments are bringing this on and consolidating amongst themselves. You know, say Glenview or Wheeling and Des Plaines and things like that, kind of moving away from what is it, Red Central or Northwest Central Dispatch?
Well, there are certain towns that have always had their own dispatch center. There's some smaller towns like Norwich and Highland Park at one time had their own dispatch center.
Sure.
And now, as part of federal guidelines, you're saying towns below certain populations should move towards consolidation. Now, some towns that are more forward-thinking, like Arlington Heights back when they started Northwest Central, we're way ahead of the ball game.
Oh, so Northwest Central is Arlington Heights Police Department's dispatch center?
Correct.
Okay, and they're doing nothing different than what Wheeling or Glenview or anybody else is doing?
No, if anything, they're operating at, it's a gold standard that they're operating at. What Glenview's trying to do is Glenview's trying to create their own Northwest Central.
Okay.
Wheeling's trying to do the same thing. So, you know, there might be advantages that they might offer because they want to build up their system, and they might offer a package for somebody that wanted to leave. At the same time, again, Joe used the perfect term, kicking tires, because, you know, I'm also trying to make a point to Northwest Central is that, you know, just because everybody else, you know, they have the luxury of not worrying about having to pay for this, you know, I have to look at our bottom line.
Sure.
And at some point it becomes expensive.
I thought it was a private entity. I didn't know it was affiliated with the police department.
It's actually managed by a board of community representatives. So.
Right.
Okay.
All right, Alderman,
I've always deferred to your best judgments.
Thank you.
Alderman Messer.
I don't have any questions, but I think it's a good idea that you're looking into the other possibilities that we have.
Alderman Rosenthal.
I would agree with Alderman Messer. It's a good thing, and you can wage some leverage by doing this, going out with.
All right, Alderman Ludwig.
I agree. I just have a quick question. I was trying to find it here in our budget update. What is the amount we spend, just to get an idea of what we spend on Northwest,
Currently,
Yeah.
we're about $250,000 a year.
Yeah.
aside from assessments? That's just our regular usage?
That's our annual assessment, and part of that is our.
Well, I mean, assessments like for the technology upgrade that we still.
That's including the current technology, the radio upgrade that we committed to. Anything that we're gonna pay going forward is gonna be above that.
That seems to be about 100,000 over 2 years.
Correct.
Okay. All right, anything else you want to add? Go kick tires, otherwise.
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brings us to item 9B, Treasurer's Report by Finance Director Stephanie Healy.
Okay, the city's currently at fiscal year 2015-16 levels in net income. We experienced some variances in the building and zoning department. We are ahead by $85,130 due to the Chase Bank and the Ramada Inn remodeling. We are $360,772 in local taxes related to increases in the handle tax, and due to the expansion of the OTB, it is doing very well, as well as video gaming revenues. And we received those earlier than prior years, so not only is there an increase, but there's also receiving it earlier. Intergovernmental revenues of $855, and intergovernmental revenues related to sales tax being received earlier than the prior year from the state, but we currently are at about the same level. We'll talk about that when we do the budget amendment. And capital expenditures are down $350,000 from the prior year related to drainage improvements that we did last year that we do not have in this fiscal year's budget. We are $452,000 ahead of budget due to police fines and fee collections. Those are continuing to be ahead of schedule. Our debt recovery program is still doing very well, and we're submitting stuff to our collection agency, who is collecting about $7,000 to $8,000 a month for us. The video gaming, obviously, establishment as well as the OTB are doing well, so they are ahead of budget, and all departments are currently under budget. And due to delay in hiring replacement of employees, the downtown evaluation is in the current budget, but it has not been spent, so that is also creating a variance to budget, and we're expected to be slightly better than the original budget that was prepared.
Questions, Liz?
I noticed at the bottom of your memo, you said slightly better.
Yes.
What does slightly better translate to?
Well, if we do here's my budget amendment. We are, based on the new budget, we are anticipating being about $96,000 better.
At the end of the year?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, sir.
The question is in reference to something you brought up, and the question is actually for Director Peterson. You had mentioned that the OTB is doing quite well. Is the OTB done? Is their build-out complete?
There are some minor exterior things that are yet to be finished. The exterior wall on the north side of the building isn't done, their final drainage, and then some final ephes work over the main entrance. The owners ended up taking advantage, and I know got some late funding that they were short, even with the help that the city gave them. But they were working diligently last month to get wrapped up, and then got hit with the cold. So I've got a meeting with Dave set for Thursday to see exactly what's left on the structure. But they made significant strides in the fall. The front of the patio's done. They did most of the wood around the whole outside, but the north side between the hotel office and the driveway on that side is not done yet.
When does the reimbursement expire for the TIF? We had put a timeline on that, if I recall.
According to the action is that the final payment wouldn't be done until the CFO was issued. And that, but I
Is
don't
that the
remember.
certificate of occupancy?
Yes. The
So
final,
money
the,
paid out and
the
gone?
We have
final, no, no, no,
15
no,
to
no,
pay.
Scott,
Fifteen?
let me rephrase it, the final certificate of occupancy. We gave them conditional based on getting the last, but the only leverage we had for them to finish was the last 50.
Right, and so they were supposed to be finished, however, it wasn't at the time of, before the Derby last year, back in May. And then we gave them certificate of occupancy and an extension in the time to get it done, and here we are January of the following year, and we're still not done. At what point are they gonna finish this? I mean, we've done everything in our power to help these guys, and all they're doing now is taking advantage of it. How do we close the door on this?
It's a very
I
good.
don't mean to blindside you with this, but, you know, I hear a report saying that the OTB is doing very well, yet they can't finish $50,000 worth of repairs
As was
that are being reimbursed.
As was stated at the time that they came in, there's a difference between the operation of the OTB and the operation of Players Pub. There's a distinct difference from what was said here by both Dave and the member from Hawthorne of the relationship. And my understanding is it's Dave and Players that are in the TIF. The OTB is not part of that arrangement, and the agreements that the city had, and please someone correct me because I wasn't here at the time, was between the owners of Players, not the owners of Hawthorne.
And the owners of Players
It was the carrot to
representing the
get the
OTB.
work done because we knew the OTB was coming, and that's what they couldn't do as part of, they couldn't make those improvements. I understand the agreement is with the owners of Players, but the enticement was done because the OTB was coming.
And from the increase in revenue, there's a revenue coming to the city because the OTB is here. However, I don't think the arrangement between Hawthorne and Players, from what Players has told me, I haven't been able to confirm this, is not as lucrative between Hawthorne and Players, and the guys at Players are on the hook for the money.
I agree, but that's something, that's a decision they made when they set that up. I mean, they
Correct.
knew they were getting this money for the improvement. They made a deal with Hawthorne to get a certain rent from them. We had no part in that, but
Unfortunately, they've made their problem our problem.
Correct, because now we're stuck in,
It needs to be.
we're stuck 11 hours and 30 minutes into a 12-hour agreement, and they're that close, but they, everything I hear, it's a push and shove because they're scrambling to take whatever cash flow they have to finish. And
There needs to be a deadline and a penalty put in place to get these things done. We keep saying, last year it was the same thing. It was the cold, it was the winter, it was, everything that was stopping this from being completed. But here we are, 12 months later, in exactly the same boat.
I'll have to research what the agreement, if there's a penalty clause in which we can go in there, or setting them up with something else.
Well, Joe should take a look at that because, we don't really know what the agreement was. I remember a lot of it, but I'm not, at this moment in time, there's no sense discussing it. Let's get the agreement out. It expired a while ago, by the way. But we let them go on. I talked to Hawthorne last week. No reason just to call them, make sure we're all happy in the pool. And they really like what's happened there for the OTB. Jeff and forgot the president's name. Jeff was the guy that came here and made presentations. They're really pleased. They said they've doubled their volume.
Okay. This is not meant to be a personal attack on Hawthorne.
Oh, not at all.
Personal attack
Not
on the
at all.
owners of Players. This is purely a business decision in which we need to finish this.
I have personally called Dave and said, look, I'm gonna pull the rest of the TIF money if you don't get the damn place finished. I did that 4 times. You know what got me? Nothing. But we do get income from the operations. Weather's a good excuse, nobody's moving anything out there right now. But that's only a 3-week event. I mean, it's only been the last 3 weeks. So let's look it up and let's, let's use a little influence. If they don't have money, what are we gonna do?
You gotta find the money to finish, otherwise they don't get the money that,
Right.
from the
And that's what we
Well,
thought.
no, I would
They
suggest we
didn't-
go to Publicus or
Yeah.
some other mall and
That's
say,
what we're
could you guys use this for an improvement? Because that's what we did
Yeah.
for that. I mean, if we can improve something else, $50,000, at least we're gonna
it's
see
a
a
heck of a
return.
refacing it.
Public is not a good choice. We offered him $800,000, and he said my taxes are gonna go up, and he told me to go away. So he's a smart guy. Just did a little tangent here. He has no mortgage, and he likes running 92% occupied. That Denny's is a travesty on our whole city. It's terrible. Talking about Publix. Anyway, let's look into it, and let's see. Let's get something in writing, Dan. You're dealing with the guy too. Have him write it down. Say, hey, we got this, this, and this to do. It'll be finished this date and this date and that. And if that's acceptable, then we'll go from there.
I think it'd be useful to get the agreement and what was expected as part of that, because, we talk about they have to finish the facade and the north wall. Is that what was listed? I don't know what was in the original agreement. I know their parking lot's falling apart, and I don't know if that was part of it too, or...
I'm pretty sure it is, because they're waiting until spring to put the parking lot up. They waited last spring too, but I have a lot of confidence they'll do it.
I just fear that it's not done, it'll never be done. We might as well just put 50 grand in and put it somewhere where we can do something with it.
I accrued $50,000 in last year's budget. They have to be done this year because, yeah.
Budget year?
Fiscal
Yeah.
year.
I think that's what I
Fiscal year.
remembered.
Yeah.
So they have to be done and be paid out by April 30th.
That was the twilight date, right?
Oh, it was, yeah, I think so. It was-
Okay, well, I mean, remind them of it and say, hey, if you're not done, you forfeited that money.
Well,
This is not another.
let me say this, there's not an excuse for them or anybody else. We're gonna lose some businesses this year, okay, and we've got to try to replace it. I want to focus on that. This guy's got an operation that's paying. That helps. Nobody's ever said that place looks dirty or it's a dump or anything like that. I've never gotten that kind of thing. I don't know, Joe or Dan, I've never heard anybody say that. We have the 50,000 on hold at least. We can rescind it anytime, maybe even before the end of the season. But then what do we got? He still doesn't finish the place. So, I mean, it's delicate, not from the standpoint of what he should do or shouldn't do. It's delicate from trying to get a business up and running. And we've helped him a great deal. And
I think that's an understatement.
no,
A great deal.
we've helped Ultra a great deal, you could say that. But I don't think, in the scheme of things, that we've helped them a great deal anyway. We have helped them. You're right about that.
Thank you.
Next item is C, report on health and sanitation activities by Building and Development Director Dan Peterson.
Just real quickly, this evening, a little over a year ago, we focused on getting our health inspection program back on track and up and running. I'm happy to say that we've met 96% completion with all of our required state inspections. The 4% we're off for timing of businesses closing, new ones starting, and we're on track. We've had great improvement in report. We've had minimum number of food establishment complaints, and the ones that we have got complaints on were resolved with either an on-site visit or a phone conversation and a follow-up inspection. And so our food program is moving forward quite well, and we're looking forward to moving into year 2. We have currently 69 establishments here in town that are required to be inspected by the state. 27 high risk, which means that they are inspected a minimum of 3 times a year based on their health risks. Fresh produce, fresh game, a lot of food, or fresh meats, and a lot of items that could potentially have a great risk.
grocery stores, fast food restaurants, delis, those types of things. We have a lot of 27 medium risk, which are only required to be 2 times a year, which are more your packaged goods, things that are coming pre-cooked, pre-assembled, so there's not a lot of handling on site. And then there are 15 low establishment risks in town, which are only 1 inspection per year. So with that being said, I think our health inspection program went quite well this year. We've met our goals, getting on track, and have had very good success and cooperation with our facilities in town.
Any questions, comments?
No, but, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, let's jump back to 9 where we can follow around.
I was just
table.
gonna say, this is very good. I like this, I learned something. I like when I learn something new in a report, like that there are different levels of inspection. I never knew that, so it's good to see something like that.
For our general comments, let's just go around table. Peter,
No comments, sir.
how's your newsletter coming? How's the email
The
response?
newsletter has just started production. It should be out within about a week or so in the hands of our residents. So.
Good. Stephanie, anything?
No, I just have the budget amendment.
Alderman Ludwigson? Alderman Rosenthal?
Just that I'm going to be having a meeting with the folks from the Camp McDonald Creek area and getting that off the ground, starting to work. And I wanted to talk with Alderman Ludwigson about that after the meeting.
All right, Alderman Nesser?
I'd like to request an executive session to discuss personnel and employee contracts.
I'll second that.
Tonight?
Yes.
Well, you could have given us a clue about that. I'm sorry,
I
I'm
was waiting
surprised.
for us to do the reports.
Well,
Everyone
could have
else is
given us
doing presentations.
yesterday or
I
the
was
day
interrupted.
before. You know, you're always complaining that
I
you
did
find out
send
last
emails to
minute.
Joe and everything regarding it and asking for
Moving on to Alderman
updates,
Williamson,
and
thank you.
we didn't get information, so I'll get it here.
I'd like to go to executive session to discuss pending litigation.
Okay, Alderman, I'm sorry, Wendy?
Just wanted to announce, that I think it's been already brought to many people's attention, that the Clear Bridge Alzheimer's and Dementia Care Center having a grand reopening and ribbon cutting on Thursday, January 19, 2017 at 4 p.m. And I guess they're going to serve refreshments and it's going to be
Scotch and water, or
Scotch.
somebody decent. All right,
Yes.
thank you. Karen?
Just one thing, that we only had one candidate for Ward 5,
Right.
and that is current Alderman Dolick. There were no objections, and by January 26th, we will have him put on the ballot.
So if his wife votes, he's in, right?
One of us, somebody has to vote, yes.
Ian, anything else you want to add, Chief?
Nope, a year ago tonight, you promoted me, well, a year ago yesterday, you promoted me to chief, and it's been a great year. It's went really fast, and thank you for your support.
Best decision we ever made.
And also, Mayor, just for the public, we have the Strategic Directions Committee this Thursday, 7 p.m.
That's right.
A lot of big items on the agenda: drainage projects, sidewalk planning, other capital projects.
Okay, moving on.
10 is the consent agenda. These are routine items of routine nature. 10A is a recommended 3-year service contract with Activity for Police Department Video Security System, approximately $18,500 a year. Recommendation is based on Activity because of continuity with the existing system. Also on the agenda is recommended approval of the settlement with a former employee. And that follows the terms and direction of previous council direction from the previous executive session.
All right, motion to approve.
So moved.
Second, please.
I'd like,
It's a consent agenda.
Right, but I mean, in order to move it,
You
have to-
did the discussion.
did you second
I seconded it.
Okay, any further discussion?
it? On item A, 10A,
10A, yes.
I'd like to recommend that we put that out for RFP based on the amount of $50,000 or some change. I think that that's enough that we should be putting it out for public bid.
All right, question, this is on the consent agenda, Joe, was it discussed before? Did we make
No, this is
recommendations
new.
before, or is this the first time?
This is first time, this is new.
Okay, why don't we table it then?
In the interest of keeping it moving, I'd like to,
You're suggesting an RFP?
I'm suggesting an RFP, but I
Okay.
don't want to table it for future discussion. If we can get the RFP
Okay.
directed now,
How soon do you think we can get
start
that?
the process.
One meeting, 2 meetings from now?
No, I would say for an RFP to allow vendors a reasonable time to research, respond, perhaps even have a review of the system, review the system. I would say probably a minimum of 2 months.
All right, item A under the consent agenda has been moved that we have an RFP prepared and get a submission within a reasonable amount of time.
May I ask a question of the chief? You're looking for a 3-year service contract. When does our current contract expire?
We don't have a current contract.
We don't.
It did expire, our warranties and guarantees expired, I believe, this past year.
So
And
just a month and a
well,
month.
actually, more over a year, because they've been responding for probably, Xtivi's been responding for approximately the last year, not sending us any bill for any service charges or any maintenance that they have done. The purpose of this, as you see by my cover letter, is we have a state-of-the-art system that there's a lot of for lack of a better term, proprietary knowledge that was built into this. So I don't see this as something that, even though I understand the purpose for an RFP, but I look at this as like almost like engineering or legal, as they've been building the system, they've been part of the system since the beginning. We're going to have a difficult time finding another company to come in and just take over a system that they didn't build. But, you know, we can go out there and try to find somebody that's willing to do that.
So it doesn't present any hiccups or interruptions for us to go to RFP?
We do have a router that needs to be replaced right now that would cost about $7,000, and if we were to adopt the system, or I had them agree that if that the city was to enter into the service agreement, that we would that they would eat the cost of that router. Right now, we would have to pay them to come out, install the router, and pay for the router itself.
Okay, well, I'm one of 5 that's, you know,
All right,
recommending.
so-
Also, the funding for this is from the drug enforcement funds.
Correct. It's eligible under the DEA seizure fund.
All right, backing up, we had a motion, a second, that was discussed. Let's have a roll call, please, regarding the RFP.
Okay, Alderman Rosenthal?
Did you, wait,
Why,
just before that, did you make a motion to amend, or
No, yeah, you didn't make.
what's this, what are we
I
approving?
mean, I was just,
To go for an RFP.
this was for discussion.
Oh,
This is, you know, what's your feedback? What's your feedback? Larry, do you have feedback?
Not really, because I was out of the room.
Oh, I'm sorry. I recommended that we go to RFP for the Xtivity contract because it's in the amount of, say, $50,000 over 3 years.
Right.
Chief is saying, you know, he doesn't feel we necessarily need to do that because, you know, we're going to have a hard time finding it or finding somebody to service the system, which is what, cameras and phones and.
Cameras, it's a wireless communication system that delivers digital images back to the police department. And they built the system, it's their proprietary knowledge that put it together. And now we're looking to put it out for somebody to bid for, to come in and to service it.
So it would be $57,000 if we didn't go ahead with this right now. Right, the
to
50
repair-
we're gonna pay and the 7,000 that we're not being forgiven.
Right.
Okay,
So, all right, so the fact, you know, this is functioning now.
We need to replace a piece of equipment right now.
Okay,
And the cost of that equipment would be approximately $7,000. and they have been giving us service for free for just over a year, and haven't billed us at all, and either they're going to start billing us or we enter into a service agreement.
How long?
So we can plug and play and pay them as we go along,
Right.
but as part of the service agreement, they will come out and they will send personnel out and inspect the cameras at least twice a year, provide preventative maintenance. And right now, I'm asking PW to come out there and climb up in the buildings and take a look at the cameras and make sure that everything is.
But you want to change vendors.
I don't want to change vendors.
Then why do we have this then?
No, it's on the agenda, if I may, to approve, to renew the contract. The contract expired, they've been operating without a contract.
Okay, all right,
So, and then Scott had discussion about maybe getting an RFP on it, but Chief Stephen said that since this company built the system, it'd be hard to find someone else to
Right.
service a system they didn't build.
And you're
So-
satisfied with the system?
I am very satisfied with the system, and I think that there's a lot of other departments that are jealous that we have such an inclusive system that's working so well.
And they are been responsive when you, because
Yes.
this is a service bureau in a sense. The contract is for them to service and maintain the network.
Correct.
All right, how about a straw poll? Are you
I'll go along
for-
with the chief's
Are you for
recommendation.
it, or are you
For going for bid?
going for bid? Are you for, how long have you been looking at this
Renew the contract.
activity?
We first talked about it in October, then I was gonna hold it over to the next budget workshop to start looking at it and talking about it then, and then when we had this major equipment
All
replacement
right,
issue.
you vetted them, rate them 1 through 10, is how confident you are with what you've got.
They're 9.
Oh, that's pretty high.
All right,
Now,
so.
just a quick question on that router, or that, whatever it is that diagram they gave us shows locations with colored dots. I'm guessing that's where the radio or the whatever kind of wireless system there is transferring information to Public Works, or is that?
Yes, so what happens is the cameras send a signal back to a main base, and then that router sends it to PW, and from PW, we link it into cable that comes back to the station.
So is it one of the camera pods, if you will, that's out, or is it
It's not the cameras, actually, it's the network, it'd be like it'll be like the street light. It sends all
all of them, or just one group of cameras?
Just one group of cameras.
Okay. So it's like one building's worth?
In one building, yeah. So it's like 4 cameras, I think, that route into that one.
One router.
Right.
So they go wirelessly to PW, and then from there, we have those T1 lines, or whatever they are now.
Actually, just
probably.
cable.
Cable now.
It's just in the cable, and it comes back to the station through the existing cables.
Four
And that's
four
maintained.
cameras of how many?
Pardon?
4 cameras on how many? 30?
26.
26?
And the other thing that I did before presenting this was that we have our own in-house IT vendors that I have them take a look at the proposal as well and say it's just within norms. They know this. They don't want to be involved in this, but they did, when we first bought the system, they came out, they audited it, make sure that we had the best bang for our buck, and they said absolutely we did. And they also, so when they came and proposed this extended service contract, I had them take a look at it too, to make sure that it was within standards and we were getting what our money's worth.
Is there any way, because this is the first time it's come to us, that we can just delay any action until the next meeting? I mean, this is on a consent agenda. This is one of those things that I don't necessarily like. This is a workshop. I mean, I know we need to get that router or whatever it is done, and that's part of this contract. So it'd be something that'd be done right away if we approve it. But you know, there's too many times we get something at this meeting, and then we have to make a decision today.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
You're a project manager. You're doing a job at XYZ company, and they say, you know what, Pat? You're the only one that's gonna bid this job. I
agree.
don't think you're gonna put your best price out there.
I think that if there's one fault I think we have that we don't pay enough attention to, and this is no secret, and I'm gonna say it again and again, it's our purchasing process. I mean, it's just, we don't have a standard process that we follow. This is of a good size, but it's not, it's big, but it's not the biggest thing that we would have approved without going out to bid on. It is somewhat proprietary, but I agree, I mean, we're now committing to a period of time that we're gonna have to live with this system, and what do we do after 3 years? I mean, now, do we keep going with it? I mean, at some point, this is gonna be an issue that we're gonna have to decide if we're gonna continue with the same vendor. And I think it's just a matter of maybe coming to that agreement now. Maybe instead of a 3-year, we can go shorter until we can make up our mind if that's what we're gonna stay with.
Rick, if I might suggest, rather than, I think, delaying the direction, why don't we go to the RFP? That's what I'm hearing. If we put this off another 2 weeks or a month, we're just kicking that down the road.
I don't
We do
know.
have a router we've got to deal with. We can work on an RFP, maybe about 2 to 3 months, we bring it back to council. And you're correct, this is the first time, but there will always be a first time.
I mean, I don't know.
By nature of what we do when we present something, it will be
I
a
don't know where
first
you
time.
stand, but based on what Chief Stefan has said, I have no problems approving it tonight. And I do agree with the two where you're coming from as far as getting the RFPs and stuff in the future, but all of the comments that Chief Stefan has made about this company, how pleased they've been with them, how they've been working with us for how long without a contract. We need this router, it's got 4 cameras that are down. I mean, just his high remarks about the company, I mean, I think definitely for the future, whatever, and then it's, you know, the police department is aware, you know, that if this, you know, comes back, that we would be looking to get, you know, another system. We understand it may cost more to have a new system built.
And
You wouldn't have to build a new system, somebody would have to service the existing.
Well, like you said, if you could find someone that's willing to service a system that they didn't build, I mean, it's not always the easiest.
And it's gonna cost us $7,000 to delay this. Is that like, can we wait 2 weeks? Well, we won't get an RFP in 2 weeks anyway, so.
I have to ask the question, can we, there seems to be the issue that you got a hardware problem with this router, and then there's the issue of the service agreement. Can we divide that and say, all right, if the immediate problem you have is the router, you got to buy one, and it's got to be installed. Can we do that without necessarily having an RFP? And then can we deal with the thing as an RFP as far as the service agreement is concerned? Or if we can't do that, can we then sign a 1-year service agreement with the company?
It was more money, wasn't it?
The 1-year agreement was for 18.5. They offered us a 3-year agreement for just under 50,000, which the math.
Okay, all right. But can we divide it then with solving the hardware problem that it seems like to me you've got right now?
Sure, I could pay for that and just pay as we go along and pay for their service to come out and do it. I can continue doing it that way. But what we're not getting is we don't have the technical staff to go out there and take a look at this equipment, over the course of the year, several times a year, make sure it's operational, make sure it doesn't need any fine tuning. You know, we're talking about microwaves here that, you know, the wind blows. And we've had that issue where after a storm, you know, things get moved around, they have to come back out and reset it. And they have.
Okay, but I'm not saying ignore that.
Right.
I'm saying solve the immediate problem of the router. And then let's do the RFP and start then looking at a systematic approach
But then it's
for
costing us
purchasing.
an extra $7,000.
You're not getting the router for free. I mean, you're.
You gotta pay for it,
a
I
piece
know
of
that.
hardware, whether you're squeezing the balloon. And Chief, I think you know in your heart of hearts, I respect you, I respect your opinion. This is not a Scott versus the chief thing. This is a policy decision. And we're talking about spending $50,000, and I feel that for that kind of money, it should go out for RFP. At the end of that RFP, if they are deemed the lowest responsible bidder, then we go with them.
Yeah.
But I believe that it should.
Okay, I think we make the motion.
Would you be, well, I'd like to get these resolved, I don't want to just push it off. Would you be okay with 1 year? Because now you're getting it down to 18,000, we'll get the router fixed, we'll get 1 year, and then at that time, we can decide how many years we're gonna go forward.
Again, you're squeezing the balloon in.
Well, I mean,
You're
it
paying
gets,
for the router
it
one
gets
way
to
or
be
the
a
other.
smaller, it gets to be a smaller number. I mean, is 18,000 the threshold for not going out to bid on a service? I don't know what the
Again,
number
you're
is.
kicking
Well,
the
and right
can
now,
down
you
the
don't
road.
know what's going to happen
And
tomorrow or
there's-
next week. We have cold, freezing weather. I mean, if something else goes wrong, then we're again paying out of pocket to get it fixed until we get under a contract with someone.
Well, I don't want to ask where the cameras are, but
But,
there's four cameras on 26.
but this is more service than we were getting, because I saw the reports for the other towns with those.
Well, at some point, we have
Status
to
of the
decide,
systems.
we have to take a look at the system and decide, are we getting our money's worth here? And is this something we're gonna wanna continue? I mean, honestly, right now, we're paying for it with DEA funds, and it's doing a bang-up job. We are definitely seeing results of that. And, this is something, again, is part of a policy moving forward. It's working well. At what point, maybe you wanna go away from
I
it?
guess that changes, it kind of changes things a little bit, is do we as a council have the authority to dictate how you spend DEA funds?
Oh, we're very transparent with that. We don't,
I would
Yeah,
prefer to be answerable to the
Yeah.
council for that. There are some chiefs that would fight against that, there's some chiefs that reserve the right to use DEA funds, and I would prefer to be answerable to the council and come to you.
I'm not saying don't do get the service agreement. Do it, if it's 2 months, like you say, it seems like if there's gonna be a sole bidder out there, you could do it much quicker than 2 months, it would seem to me. I mean, you put out your RFP.
It's 2 months. We meet twice a month. It's also timing on, almost like when things come out of the plan commission. Whereas how approximate it is to the next meeting. I would say at least give them a month to
Yeah.
come out and see the system, to give them a month to respond, which gives us four weeks, both to write an RFP and then also to review them. So I think 2 to 3 months is a reasonable time.
And also per state statute, if it's over 25,000, you need to do
Right.
an RFP unless it's a special service.
And to get packets
Per
out
state
before the meeting,
statute,
so
yeah.
it's.
Unless it's right.
Would this fall in the criteria of special service, though?
Yep, that's what I
Yeah,
said.
you can make that argument.
Right.
And that's a reasonable amount of time. I wouldn't want to do less or more than that.
All right, could somebody make a motion?
I move we approve modify item A in the consent agenda to include the publishing and review of an RFP with expeditious and efficient speed.
I second that.
All right, we have a motion second. We really have discussed this. Let's
But I
hear-
do have a question with the motion, because I don't know if legally it's going to stand. Because you're modifying something that says you're approving something to say with an RFP. I think if you're not approving it, I think you need to remove item 10A from the consent agenda, direct staff to request the RFP, and then just vote on 10B.
I like it.
Okay?
I move what I just said. You can play it back.
You're absolutely right.
I wasn't
second
gonna,
that.
first of all, he had a motion going, so let's take your motion back and
No, I-
let her make her motion and then come back to you.
That's right.
Can we do that?
I move that we remove item 10A from the consent agenda and direct staff to obtain an RFP on said
Okay,
item.
we'll do it all one
To
time.
begin immediately.
Okay. So we have a motion, we have a second for that motion.
Second.
All right. Roll call, please.
Alderman Ludwigson. Alderman Messer.
Aye.
Alderman Williamson.
Pretty sure, yeah.
Aye.
Motion, yeah, say aye. or
Rosenthal.
whatever.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Now I move to approve consent agenda item 10B.
Second.
We have a motion to approve 10B, and we have a second, and we have discussion, because you said what a
Oh,
great
is it?
thing that was.
Okay, well then discussion.
Can we make a comment on it? On
We can't.
10B?
Sometime tonight, yes,
Not really.
please.
Okay. Why not really?
Because it's something we have to talk about in executive session.
And I
Make
didn't
any
realize that was
comments
part
about
of what Alderman Williamson moved to discuss in executive session.
Where are we? Roll call.
discussing.
Okay,
But I don't think,
We're
Is the
approving.
motion, is the motion?
You
in
wanted to
order?
approve B, but it was already approved under the agenda.
we never approved anything under the consent agenda because we were discussing item
Okay,
10.
let's approve it now.
But I don't think you want to.
I'd like to take it back to executive session to discuss it. I mean, it's
So you
something,
want to remove that too? What is it? Where were you talking about? 10?
Then I would
it's a
remove
5-minute
that
discussion.
we approve item 10A with the provision that an RFP goes out.
No,
Very
item
different.
10A was removed.
And
Now,
10,
I'm bringing it back.
And
10B is,
you can't approve it and ask for an RFP because the way it reads, you're
Which we do.
approving
There, you
them
just
to
want to
enter
make a
into a
motion
service
that you
contract.
direct staff to develop an RFP for item A.
Right, well, we've removed it from the agenda. We removed it from the consent
Yeah.
agenda.
yes, we
And
did.
I
So-
directed them
So
all the
then
same thing.
we can then make a motion and make the
I did it all
modification
in
to it.
one.
You did it all at once?
Yes.
Yes,
All
well,
That's
right,
done.
we did it all at once,
That's
that's
All
fine.
right, that's
10A
done,
is-
so
is
10B,
done.
10B is now
An executive
removed
session.
and placed into executive session. Can we have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
okay.
Okay, so we got that part straight. Go ahead.
Well, I think that brings us to new business.
Old business, is there any?
There's nothing.
What happened to the warrants? Are we still
We're
doing the
not there
warrants?
yet.
We're not doing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, we still have the workshop stuff to go through.
Lots of luck, because I am not staying. I can't stay, actually, so, for anything. All right.
12A is a staff recommendation and request for council authorization to participate with Mount Prospect in the joint resurfacing of Old Willow from Muir Lane to
Oh, yeah.
River Road. Was a memo from Steve Perez, city engineer Steve Perez in your packet. The cost is approximately $160,000. This is considered one of our poor streets, and it's recommended that we participate with this.
I would like to make a motion to approve.
Really? Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Second,
We have a second
discussion.
discussion.
Do we currently have the funds to cover this in our budget?
We have a road fund.
We have it, the capital program, which is undesignated to this specific
We have a
project.
road fund.
Yeah, we have
Right.
350,000 in the budget, and we've spent 212,000.
Look at that. We need to find $2,000.
So we're a little bit short?
$2,000.
Do you have
Maybe
it?
$12,000. My math is bad.
Are you writing the check?
Oh, the Pat was gonna do it when he died.
Okay, that's right.
Well, let's go for an RFP. And then Anyway, I'm really in favor of this, because if you've ever driven down Olive, where Arlington Heights did their half and we did our half, it looks terrible. And they put in cement, as a matter of fact.
And that's a consideration there.
And this stretch is about the same as the Wheeling Road situation, where we paid $150,000 to do our share of Wheeling Road. County paid for the rest. So it fits right in.
Okay. I have no further comments or questions.
So we have a motion to approve from Alderman Williamson. We had a second. We discussed it. Roll call, please.
Alderman Rosenthal.
Aye.
Alderman Williamson.
Aye.
Alderman Ludwigson.
Aye.
Alderman Massey.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Item B, Joe.
Is requested approval of results of the Milwaukee Avenue Tourism District landscaping RFP and approval of a contract with Landscape Concepts as the lowest responsible bidder for up to 3 one-year terms. The lowest price was approximately $4,071.36 a year. This is for the tourism district. Please be advised that at the direction of Alderman Ludwigson, we also included an alternate bid for city property, city
I
hall,
remember.
other
Alderman
things.
Williamson did too.
The one item for consideration, though, is that is not budgeted. I would recommend that it compete with other items in the 2017 budget. We could revisit it. It's not for or against the item, it's just that while the tourism district money is funded, this one is not.
Well,
for other landscaping.
we've talked about this from the standpoint, are our signs part of the tourism district? Which I happen to think they are. It brings people there. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I think it should go to tourism district.
The signs?
Yeah.
Yeah, these aren't the signs, this is landscaping, and I don't know, I'm a little bit uncomfortable saying that the City Hall Police Department landscaping would be under tourism district monies and funding.
Is the Milwaukee
Eligible.
corridor landscaping under the tourism budget?
Yeah.
So this
Yeah,
is
and
a shared-
that's what the base bid is for.
so this is a shared contract.
It was just for an economy of scales of going out to bid and putting together an RFP. We said, why don't we just add an alternate to the base bid that we were gonna do with the tourism district RFP for landscaping. I said, let's just ask, since we're going out, what it would cost to do City Hall, the parking lot, the police station, and
Metro.
Metro. So all four of those locations would be maintained by somebody else. Now, we don't have the RFP here. I know we saw it though. So I don't know what that includes for people to get a judgment in their mind of what's being done for the $9,000.
Peter, in the future, if you could add the RFPs. with them.
Absolutely, I have
Is
that
that, do
PDF.
you know
we can send that out.
from,
He has it right now, please, Peter.
My 13-year-old son will do it for $20 a week.
Slightly more than that.
it's a lot of,
We're talking about the alternate, right?
right, the alternate.
man.
$19 lawnmower, $20 for him.
Right, we're talking about, if you look at the lowest bidder, they're lowest responsible, plus, I think
Well,
13,000 versus 50,
Technically,
37,
they are a
18.
little bit higher than vendor number one, about $980 if you add up the 3 years.
Oh, I see. If they're higher in year one, that can't be,
You'd have to add them.
right? Oh, because
Year
of,
2 and 3, yeah.
I see
For
what
the
you're saying.
alternate bid,
For
you're
a 3-year contract, I mean, it's $980 difference, but
see what
technically
you're saying.
vendor one actually is cheaper for the 3 years for the city-owned properties.
But overall, even if you rattle
If you
all
were to
out,
split them individually, you're correct.
But isn't that how it's happening, is it's being split individually, and it's being paid by, this portion's being paid by the city, this portion's being
Correct,
paid by the
absolutely.
tourism district?
The tourism district is only for the Milwaukee Avenue corridor.
So we could approve for the tourism district, we don't have to approve for the city-owned. It's not like we have to go with one vendor on both
The-
to get the deal.
Correct. The recommendation right now from staff is to approve the Milwaukee Avenue corridor, because that's budgeted through the tourism district. I mean, you, as a council, can
Right, but we
recommend, decide.
can't use these numbers as put on paper. You can't take that alternate bid and say, okay, we're gonna use company B, can you? This is based on, they're gonna, you know, let's use vendor number one. They're gonna do it for $87.75 per year, and they'll also do $10,177 per year, providing they get the first one. Is that the way it goes?
There's separate requests.
Separate,
Or separate
Yeah.
RFPs, so we can go with two different vendors.
right.
So today we would just be approving
What do you think?
for the tourism district.
Or,
no, I think the recommendation from staff is they don't want to expand the program to go to do these other city properties. We all along have said that we're going to do the Milwaukee
Right.
corridor. That's
Right.
always been part
So
of
we
the
would be
bigger plan.
approving the tourism district to be done by vendor 4 today. That's how it's written on the agenda.
Correct.
Correct. That's all they're recommending.
Yeah.
It's a
Well, and
decision now as far as whether or not because we went out to bid for this in December, so we wouldn't have a timing issue. Now, the staff is saying it's a timing issue because of budgets. We'd have to approve this before the end of the year, but we're making a budget amendment. So I guess this is something that, I've always felt strongly that we don't cut all the grass that we're supposed to, and we spend a lot of time trying to make these 4 locations look really good, or we should be, because they're our marquee locations. So if we're not doing that, we can spend more time doing something else, but it costs us $9,000 or $10,819, or whichever one you go with a year to do. And if you run the math on it and take the total and divide it by 3 months by $14 an hour, you come up to about 2 people is what it would be. The 2 summer helpers, 2 of the summer helpers is what budget-wise we'd have to spend or give up.
and
to
the
do
summer
this.
helpers you're talking about are actually missing during the peak growing seasons, being the spring and the fall. They're there during, mowing every week during the summer,
Yeah, I guess that's
between June and middle of August, right?
And what are we getting for $10,000 a year, just
One way
someone
to
cutting
look
the
at it,
We have
grass?
four.
Cutting grass,
We have four.
whatever,
Application, herbicide application, fertilizer applications.
Trimming bushes.
trimming bushes,
Shrub pruning,
which
dead
is done
maintenance.
now at some of the locations.
Yes.
Because I've never thought City Hall looked neglected or,
The City Hall's really the only one
Yes,
that's,
well, the garden club takes care of City Hall, and the Public Works mows the grass, I say. Or They may trim the bush, I don't know, I'm not the Public Works guy, I'm not gonna speak for him.
but the problem we have is that, you know, every hour that staff or the Public Works spends cutting the grass at these locations, which should be nice, they could be spending doing something else. And, you know, we're already stretched with staff. This is just an easy way, in my opinion, to remove a big item that's, takes up a lot of time in the summer. I mean,
It takes up a lot of time, and you can focus on higher priorities.
they can focus
things
on higher
like that.
priorities, right, and they can do other things. It's leveraging the current staff that we have. Nobody's going away as a result of this, it's permanent staff, and it just gets us out of having to do something that we currently do, and do it frankly at a higher level because there's higher expectations based on the bid. You know, there's the bush trimming and everything else that we don't do at the metro station. I mean, the metro station this past year looked really bad. So that's why I requested that, that's why it was in there, to get the pricing out, to kind of make a decision to shift that to an outside firm.
how many locations?
Form.
So is someone gonna make a motion
So it's
to,
like $833 per location
Divided
for the
by
3 months.
April 2, no, not for 3 months.
He said 3 months.
Well, their contract, what Scott's saying is the contract for the landscaping goes on
Yeah, it
beyond
goes
what we
for-
have.
Right, but you were
April.
comparing it to what we
I'm saying,
paid
yeah, I mean,
now.
if we gave up 2 summer helpers, that would pay for this, pretty much, right? I mean,
Yes, it's exactly
Or,
about the same amount.
and I wouldn't just focus as 2 summer helpers, because it could be, I don't know, cameras or pavement, or, I mean, any number of things. That's more of the concern, is how does it compete, not just with an alternative. If Jim O'Neill were here, he'd probably say that I'd like to have that extra summer crew, because in the summer, we lose people, vacation, comp time from snow plowing. If a storm comes through, these landscapers aren't gonna be doing tree removal on weekends or
Right,
something.
but I'm not suggesting that we lose anybody, I'm just giving you
Yeah.
an equivalent of what that 9 or 10,000
Right.
is. I'm not saying we even have to get rid of the 2, I'm just
Okay.
saying you can look at it as, that's what we pay for.
So if I understand what you want, Joe, you want, we want to approve the tourism district line item,
Yes.
and then what do you want to do about the,
I think it's a good conversation.
Or
I would just rather have it in competition with the other budget items.
I think we already do that, I mean, that's why we went back last summer and said, we're gonna have to get this RFP, we went through this process, this slow process that we just were describing with RFPs to get it written up, to go out to bid. Now, we're going through that process, so it was kind of decided, in my opinion, last fall, that this was a priority. So it's not like it's a, you know, we don't go out and get prices on everything that we want to do and then prioritize them from there.
And as you're a council member, I have to agree with you. If you were a department head, I'd disagree with you. We'd say we practice some budgetary discipline. And if we had the conversation in the fall, that was after the budget year. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I mean, we're talking about timing now because it's a May 1st. I mean, if we make this contract May 1st, I'd be okay with that too. So
Right.
fall next year, if that's the crux of the problem. But I understand what you're saying, that's not. I mean, it's being
more-
said that it is, but it's not.
It's more of how does this compete with other
Correct.
priorities? All.
I would rather have it stated that way, so it's a fair statement than saying it's a budgetary issue, because that's just.
to start moving it, I'll make, unless there's one on the floor already, I'll move that we approve the appropriation for the Milwaukee Tourism District.
It's not an appropriation, it's a contract.
Or
So
contract,
12B.
okay. The Milwaukee.
No, he's saying that only approve 12B1, which is just the Milwaukee Tourism District landscaping.
Yeah, 12B only has the tourism one. Second, motion to approve item 12B.
Can we discuss further?
We
If
can,
there's a second, you can keep talking, yeah.
I'm going to take a roll call.
Yeah, I'm all
Discussion,
for
Scotty?
it. Well, we have to do this part anyway, so I mean.
Yeah, let's just get it off the table and then.
I'm going to do roll call. Alderman Robinson?
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal?
Aye.
Alderman Messer?
Aye.
Alderman Williamson?
Aye.
So at what point do we revisit?
So now I'd like to make a motion that we approve item 12B.
Well, let me interrupt
There is
you.
no-
I have to leave. I think
Yeah.
between the four of you, you'll elect or appoint, well, we don't have mayor pro tems, but whoever's going to run the meeting. It isn't going to be me. Okay, thank you.
Have a good night. Hope all is well.
Put wheels in these chairs.
There is no 12B2.
No, what.
Line items.
He segregated,
Yeah.
it's item number 2 in the breakout.
The chart.
You got some time.
If you look at the
think
prices
we
that came back.
And
Oh, we don't
it's
need
been
to
there
add.
for-
No, we don't have to add it.
It's
We-
there.
Well, because 12B is only approving the tourism,
No,
the way
My
it reads on
motion
the
was
agenda.
to just approve the tourism
The
portion
attorney
of the
could
bid.
probably figure this
Yeah,
out.
if we had the attorney here, geez.
Well, and I apologize when I wrote this, because it was under the assumption, from staff's point of view, that we would only be approving the tourism district. That's how it's written on the agenda.
You can add it to the
I mean,
next agenda.
yeah, that's why I think we need to add it. I think we approved 12B as written. I think if you want to do the non-tourism, the city-owned property, we need to add it and approve it.
Well,
Point of information, my motion said the tourism bureau.
That's correct.
Yes.
It's only the tourism bureau.
And that's how it's
12B
written on
has
the
passed.
agenda. We're
Yeah.
approving the item. So I think we can add it, that we want to approve.
I will feel like I'm being relevant
you-
here.
you-
And then I'm gonna bang the table on first just to say,
You can only approve
I will
80%.
bury you because this goes to not having the attorney here. I will not come to another meeting without the attorney here because I've been Buffalo. So,
Well, and
No,
Pat,
this
here's
is
a
understood.
suggestion too. If this isn't a major rush, we can always have it put on the agenda for the next meeting to approve this for the city-owned properties. 'Cause the
well,
way
no,
it's
I
currently written on
understand
the
that. No, I
agenda
get
doesn't
it. I
address
get
that
it.
at all.
But I don't even know now that if we're approving a portion of the bid, if we can go back technically later on and approve a second portion of it later.
But he said it's separate
Pat,
bids.
to your point, I
They're not
asked for the
coming up.
attorney to be here tonight, and he's not here.
Never, I will not come to another meeting without the attorney here. That I
Okay.
can. period.
That's fine.
So I'm fine, I got busted on this, I got caught up in my own, what I think I'm pretty good at is policy or procedure and parliamentary issues, but I got caught up in it, I lost, and
I don't understand what you're saying, because
When you approved it, you were approving it because you wanted to segregate the two to approve them.
It's what's.
my motion specifically mentioned Milwaukee Avenue
Right,
Tourism
but what
District.
Peter's saying is that's what the motion was. And when I went along to vote with it, I was voting with it because I thought we were bringing the second half of it again. And Mike would have corrected me on that. I know he would have, or anybody else that would have made that mistake. So that's why I feel.
So why can't you bring the motion forward on the city-owned properties if that's what
Because
you
it's
want
not
to do?
published on the
I'm saying
agenda.
it's not published,
It's not
even though
on
it
the
is on the
agenda.
agenda.
Well,
No, no.
Not-
So you see
technically,
where
no, it's
I have
not
my
though.
issue?
The way the agenda is written, and then this does go to the gallery, but the way the agenda is written, it's only to approve the results for the tourism district landscaping. So we were provided information on both, but the agenda is only calling for us to approve the one.
But there is no resolution here to approve a contract. So it's on the agenda itself as just an entire issue. We're not approving a specific,
You were buffaloed by item B, the way it was written, not by the way, she's right.
no, there is no, I'm just saying right now, there is no resolution that we're approving.
The contracts
You're
don't have to
approving
be
a contract.
you're approving the contract.
You don't have to have a
Specifically,
We're approving the contract, but that's a portion of the it's fine, we'll bring it up at
Well,
the
no,
next
because
meeting.
Peter said it was separate bids. It wasn't a bid all-inclusive. It was a bid for the
Was
tourism.
it an alternate or
And he said it was a
separate
separate bid.
bids?
The bids for A and B, which B is the alternate, are separate.
So there were two separate signatures from each contractor
Correct,
for each
yes.
bid?
Yes. So they gave us a quote for A, they gave us a quote for B.
So how about we direct staff to put the city-owned properties on the next agenda to be voted, and it's already been discussed.
And we separated them like that, I believe, Joe, because they're from two pots of money.
Right.
One's from the tourism district, the city-owned properties would have to come from the
Right,
budget.
that
but
came
you
from
gave
me.
us-
I was the one that said we should
no.
do it that way, so I don't need to hear that. But
It was
that's just-
convoluted, the way it was
Yes.
presented.
Okay.
Okay, so
can we-
we'll go on from there. So we need Joe
Joe.
to assume
For,
the duties of the mayor pro tem right now, and
I believe it has to be a
so I'll make a
council
motion that
member.
we do. No, you can finish it.
Well,
I
are we
think it
moving on
should
to
be
12C?
the senior member of the council.
Correct.
All right, can we take them,
To make a motion that Scott finishes the meeting as the mayor pro tem.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
okay, so can we get a roll call for item 12D?
I thought you
We already did.
did
We already
one.
did that?
We did
Yeah.
it.
So we're on to 12C.
All right, 12C, ordinance approving a budget amendment for the fiscal year 2016 to 2017, City of Prospect Heights, first reading. Stephanie, you want to explain that?
Sure, do you want to go through each line item that's changed, or?
It's a first reading.
Yeah, why don't you waive the first reading?
No, we do,
No.
we don't
No.
waive first readings on budget amendments.
Okay.
Well, isn't this something we're going to be talking about on the 12th of January?
No.
No, not at all.
Oh, only for this fiscal year, not next fiscal year, unless you're changing.
No, we're
something
talking
else.
about,
This.
we'll be talking about 17, 18,
Oh, okay, okay.
No,
for the budgeting of the
we'll be
capital
talking
improvement.
about this year because one of the promises we made for the drainage was to revisit this based on our 6-month.
That's what I recall.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think Steve Burrell said that if we went out for RFP, we wouldn't be able to start the project before May. At our staff meeting.
All right, forgive my ignorance, I don't know what this has to do with.
Here again, it speaks to process.
That the person briefed for the meeting should have stayed for the complete meeting?
No, what our next meeting is about is to discuss going forward with capital improvements. It wasn't just for 17, 18, it's for the finishing of 16, 17. So the budget, the reason why that meeting is being held before the passage of this second reading of the budget is so that we can decide if we're going to increase the budget to include drainage, but.
So should we table item 12C?
But then we need to, I think you need to approve the first reading, so that when you come back with the second reading, or well, you need to approve.
And I need
Go through
feedback
your
if you're gonna
process.
change anything.
She just wants, what she's asking is, does she want us to, her to explain to us what all the changes are, so then we can give our comments before the next meeting where
Yes.
this is on for
Oh,
approval.
I
Not
will
take
be here
action.
tonight,
Not
guys.
take action.
Yeah, right.
Correct.
I'll just go through them really quick.
Hold on, let me get to it, please.
Okay.
What is this?
Stephanie, you're saying net increase of 96,775
Correct.
revenue,
Yes.
and total revenue increase 286. So the increase in the decrease is the increase in the of 189,240 in expenses. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, I'm almost there. I could have, that would be cheating.
Well, just if there's anything that you don't like in this.
Oh, okay.
I mean, not that we can like or dislike it, it's just how things are either trending or going.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, so telecom tax are going down again. They're trending 12.5% lower. Rental car expenses are trending lower as well.
Where are you, Stephanie? Are you on
On the
the?
budget, the first,
I'll see what that.
are you on the budget?
yeah, we were at the first page of 12C.
You got a summary budget there, or is that the,
No, this is exactly what you have there.
but this is the detail we're looking at.
Right.
We don't have the summary page of that, just by category. Are you going
No,
through each
you
of these
should
items?
have it.
So you're starting right here?
Yep. dumpster, summer, if you want the actual. The first line should say real estate taxes because I've had more questions on there.
Local taxes.
Nope, that's the summary, you should have the detail.
Would be page 76.
It should be page, this should say page 1.
Your spreadsheet starts on page 71.
One of 20.
72, rather.
It should say 1 of 20.
I'm gonna look for something that says Telecom 5.
That's all right.
Here, I got my hard copy, I can use my computer.
That's okay.
The
All right.
first spreadsheet is page 1.
Do you have
Yep.
page one?
I got a spreadsheet that says that. And the equivalent in the agenda book is, for the paging in the agenda book is
Are all the changes
72.
noted on the memo?
They're noted on the memo, yes.
Why don't we just go through the memo?
Yeah,
All right, that's fine, let me
I
pull it
like
up.
that.
And she'll be back in a second. You and lady. Anybody have to go to lunch?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to leave soon, I'm not gonna stay for an executive session. So, I don't know how you're gonna do this, but.
We'll appoint a temporary clerk
Okay.
to take
Do that.
minutes.
One of you guys can do it, maybe.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, places for eating is trending higher by $12,518. OTB is up $66,000.
Where does that put OTB overall for the year?
The OTB is at $132,700.
Well,
Yeah, we budgeted $66,000, which was the same as fiscal year 14-15. Video gaming is up $24,000. We have 2 additional establishments. Income taxes are trending based on the IML estimate, $8,128 higher. The airport sharing amount came in $29,773 higher.
So let me ask you a quick question about that. Is that the truing up that we did this summer?
No, the airport sharing has to do with the amount that we get from sales tax, their portion.
Right, but we have what we collect because we
Yes,
have
and
Hawthorne.
that's the
and we
difference.
have- So that's the
Yes,
difference.
the net amount.
It's not what Wheeling sent us. It's because.
No, that's what Wheeling sent, what happens is Wheeling has their amount, they
Mhm.
know what our amount, and they send us the
The
net.
difference, and that's-
Yes,
okay.
that's the amount yes.
Got it.
So it's 29,000 higher than we budgeted. The tobacco grant, all the grants were held back, so we got 2 years worth in this year, so it's up $1,948. Vehicle sticker late fees are up $13,470. We still do not have the information from the state. It takes them at least 6 to 9 months, but we do have, what we're actually working on is taking the sewer database, merging it with the vehicle sticker database, and anyone who has a sewer bill who hasn't paid their sticker will be getting a little note from us. So that's how we're gonna do the enforcement, because we don't have the states. So that's what Eileen and I are working on right now, so that we should have the letters out in the next 2 weeks.
Does that account for multifamily or not?
No, those would not, but most of those, they park outside, so all of those are usually ticketed. It's the people who live in private residence who are usually the offenders. Cable franchise fee is trending the same as last year, so that's an increase of 35,000. Solid waste is also at 18,000 higher. Building permits, because of the Bridge Church, is 15,000 higher. Ordinance parking fines, that's 45,000 higher. DUI assessments are 1,400 higher. Narcotics, seized assets, police revenues are up 6,825 and 3,150. Service charges, MFT, we're slightly anticipating more snow. I think when we did this budget, it snowed like every other day. It's not lately, so I think maybe we'll see where we are next time, but it's only $2,100 more.
Director Hanna, can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
Has everybody read this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do
We
you all
don't
want
need
to
to
go through every
this
line?
by line.
No.
We really
Okay,
don't.
so,
The-
thank you.
the
Summary
thing
is,
you got $96,000 to play with.
yeah,
Right.
Yes, and if there was anything on here that anyone had questions on or did not agree with or did not want to change, just let me know and we can change it.
Just a couple of quick questions about health insurance. One of the line items says that we have an increase because of retirees. The only people who get health insurance is the police department, is retiree benefit, correct? Or, yeah, because Public Works is paid for by the union, not by us.
Right, but Steve Spieber left as well. So what happens is they get, if they're not over 65, then they pay us. So we have to collect the money
Right.
and then we pay. So we have to record the revenue and the expense related to it.
So this is the revenue side, where's the expense side?
The expense side is under employee, that is,
Bottom page
Oh,
seven.
it's health insurance.
it's under employee expense reimbursement. Let's see, no, it's under
Other
employee
expenses.
insurance reimbursement. It's under 01-155-3702. That one was increased,
What was that
or
one?
up to 50. It would be,
There's two spots where we have health insurance.
no, it's,
Oh, here's 23 of them, okay.
yeah, well, no, it's under
The bottom.
other.
Yeah.
Retirees
Oh,
right there.
okay.
Yeah, because it's not specific to a department, we put it in its own, so it's under other.
Okay. The other thing was, I noticed that social security, was that just a mistake on
went
the
up.
first one?
No, so security went up from 118,000 to 127,000, so that increased.
It says that we're going up 38,000.
Oh, that, you know what, that's,
There was a big line in the.
oh, yes, that was one, for the Medicare, you mean. That's the corrected amount for Medicare, Social Security.
Medicare,
Social
okay.
Security went to 127,000.
So that was just a mistake on the previous budget?
Correct.
Okay. And then,
Because PD does not get Social Security, and they get Medicare, and so we have to make sure we account for it.
okay. Then our unemployment is gone, is that because our rate's gone up,
That's
or?
Brent, we have no rate, we're self-insured,
Oh, yeah.
and because of Brent. Yeah.
Okay.
Which we'll-
all right. So in summary, we have,
In summary,
Yeah, 96,775.
yes, our budget's better by 98,000.
okay, motion to approve the, no motion. All right. Item 12D, approval of collective bargaining agreement with International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150.
I move to approve the collective bargaining agreement.
Second.
Roll call.
Alderman Ludwigson.
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal.
Aye.
Alderman Messer.
Aye.
Alderman Williamson.
Aye.
Okay, carries 4-0.
All right, item 13, discussion selection topics for upcoming workshop meeting on November 14th. Items listed previously. Discussion, item 13A, discussion of liquor license code.
I've spoken to Mike twice. We have a meeting that we're actually going to sit down and go over in his office what we've been working on the 21st of January. So we should have something written back to the council after that.
Okay. So everybody content with that?
Yes.
So it goes on the February workshop, right?
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Information.
What was the other, is there another item?
Item 13B is discussion of capital projects and capital budget, which we at the last meeting talked about moving that to the strategic
Right,
directions
and we'll come
meeting
back with
for
a
discussion
recommendation.
in session.
Yeah, we'll have a recommendation, I'll have a summation report.
So are we still discussing the item that, I know Joe put in the administrator's report, I thought was supposed to be under this as far as the median on Apple Drive out to Milwaukee Avenue? I know you said, Joe, that you thought it should still be discussed here, I didn't know.
It's on the strategic directions agenda for Thursday night. And in the packet was the information that Steve had, the concern about the drainage, but also following up with our discussion, the recommendation to try the striping to see if that works. And
Yeah.
then revisit it.
I know, I think I told Scott for tech, I I thought the fee was rather high that Steve Perez put out there for what I think needs to be achieved. Obviously, I'm not an engineer. I think it would be nice to see if some of what he thinks needs to be done can be bypassed. The first half of it out to Milwaukee Avenue doesn't need to be touched. So I don't know if we can avoid going through IDOT since it's not on a state road, and the portion of it that actually runs perpendicular to it doesn't need to be touched. And then I suggested that we maybe try the striping first. There are no lines there, and the way the road curves, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. The right lane when it curves, people are kind of going straight still, so that's why they're still halfway in the left-hand lane. So if we put stripes for those who can't figure out that the road bends there to stay on their lane, if it's apparent, maybe it'll help resolve it without having to go the other route. So, and I have pictures I can show you guys later that I've taken that's showing the cars backed up and how it gets.
So maybe we just need to find out from Steve if we have the authority to actually stripe that portion where it intersects with.
Well, the striping would be on Apple Drive, so I don't.
There's an apron, there's usually.
Yeah, there's a section that belongs to IDOT though.
Yeah.
Well, the first, I don't know how many feet it would be, maybe 10, 15, I'm trying to think if I lay it down on the road, how many of me would fit there, has a little bit of a stripe, and you can see it in the picture. So it's just back more, kind of like where you turn into the hotel, if you're like, if you turn onto Apple off Milwaukee, where you turn the hotel, from around there back is where like there really isn't striping, and it kind of gets blocked right there. So, I mean, I would think that the stripe there would be far enough back from Milwaukee, but it's not my area of
Just to play it
expertise.
safe, we will check with IDOT. They're very sensitive about things that are right adjacent to the state highway. And Steve was more concerned if we were removing a median and there's drainage issues, then IDOT would be even more sensitive. But we'll check with them just to see if it's okay, or if it might need a permit. But we agree that on a trial basis, we can try the striping and see if that works.
Yeah.
So,
And I said, I've received complaints about it, it would be nice to see it fixed, but I think the high end that was proposed is a little much for it too, so.
Okay, so we're gonna go to Steve Perez and find out if that's an option. He'll inquire with IDOT.
correct.
Do you know how long it takes for him to hear back from IDOT on striping?
Oh, it's hard to tell. Well, Steve's quick, when he'll contact them as soon as he gets direction. But then
Oh,
He might know the answer because we didn't present this to him as
So-
an option. He might just be able to tell us.
well, we spoke.
yeah, we spoke,
we
so do we
spoke,
need to
yeah.
give formal direction to you to have him do that tonight then?
Well, I
Because
thought
we did
maybe
discuss it.
out of courtesy of the Strategic Directions Committee, we have on the agenda for Thursday night, just as a.
He'll be there for that?
Sorry.
Steve will be there?
Yeah,
Oh, then I'll be there.
yeah,
Okay.
so.
So Steve will be there.
Direction then to inquire about it.
Okay.
I figured if it
so-
takes a while, if you put the request in now to find out if we have approval.
Okay, so for next month's topics of discussion, we'll have a review of the liquor license code. And then I'd like to ask that we place discussion of the sanitary system on there, so we can start finalizing that based on the last report that we got.
And the capital budget thing.
Yeah, capital budget.
Okay.
Okay.
I agree.
And then, have we had any discussion about when our pre-budget meeting is going to be?
Yes, the meeting is,
Are we doing one or two?
one, unless we need a second one. The budget memo.
So it's going to be a Saturday again?
Yes.
When is that?
Okay, so the meeting is set for February 22nd, no, I'm sorry, February 27th at 8:30 a.m.
Okay.
Is it the 7th?
That's
27th
not
or
a
25th?
Saturday, it's a
When was the
Monday.
25th?
25th?
February
Oh, wait,
27th is a
I'm looking
Monday.
at last year's, hold on, I have to look at 2018.
I have the 25th, February 25th.
25th.
It would be
Yeah.
25 if you're talking about that.
Hold on,
last-
I had the 2018 calendar, yes, it's
I already
February
have it in
25th.
mine.
It would be February 25th if it's the last Saturday in
Yeah, the
February.
25th, that's correct.
8:30 a.m.
Okay.
vacation yet?
You better be.
So we'll get that then.
Mayor Pro Tem.
The 21st.
That's
At the
set.
board meeting on the 21st.
You said that's set already?
I'm sorry.
That's set already?
Vacation.
Yes.
Puerto Rico.
Approval of warrants. Item 14A, approval of expenditures.
I'm just
Look
going
at
to
it.
go down to the bottom line, the total warrants of $873,783.76.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Alderman Williamson.
Aye.
Alderman Musser.
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal.
Aye.
Alderman Ludwigson.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 4-0.
Stephanie, when did you say that?
Item 15, resident comments, not agenda matters. Anything been submitted? Item 16, executive session. I believe action is to be taken as we come out of it.
For purposes of,
pending litigation and specific employee personnel.
and contract. Because we're gonna talk about, no, we just approved the contract?
We approved the one.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So we could.
So I move that we go to
we can
executive
excuse
session to
staff if
discuss
they're here.
pending
What's that?
We
litigation
can excuse
and
staff.
personnel
Second.
matters.
Yeah. And is that appropriate? At this point, can we excuse staff? and-
Yeah.
Do we need a roll call?
So we have the first and second.
Can we,
a roll call.
can we stay in this room?
Oh, yes, yes.
All right.
Shut down the
Okay,
mic.
make sure that-
Make sure the recording is on.
It's gonna be temporary clerk, okay?
We'll go in the meeting, Joe. I think we can appoint, that doesn't have to be an elected person, temporary clerk.
Right.
Somebody has to report it though.
Yeah, Joe can. So we had a motion and a second to go into executive session, so we need a roll call on that.
Okay, so, Alderman Williamson. Alderman Musser.
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal.
Aye.
Alderman Ludwigson.
Aye.
You want to use my?
Yeah. Reconvening the open session for City Council workshop meeting, January 9, 2017, at 9:34 PM. Roll call, please.
Alderman Williamson,
Here.
Alderman Messer,
Here.
Alderman Rosenthal,
Here.
Alderman Ludwigson.
Want to do that one again? Discussion of item 13, or I'm sorry, item
I move to approve
Item
consent
10B.
agenda, item 10B.
Second? Second, excuse me.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, it's a.
Do we need a roll call?
Yeah, I'd say a roll
Okay.
call.
Roll call.
I think we're all ayes.
Alderman
Aye.
Messer,
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal,
Aye.
Alderman Ludwigson,
Aye. And
Alderman Williamson, aye. Motion passes 4-0.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, no, wait, two items, since we still have the floor. I would like to ask that we put on the next agenda, because we can do that in a meeting still.
Anything you want right now.
I know. To put on the agenda at the next meeting that we say that the city, or that the city attorney shall be at all workshop and council meetings. Get that over with now, we vote on it, yes or no at the next meeting, but this is just insanity, because this was a,
I will be able to country at the next meeting, but my vote would be yes.
You will not be at the next meeting?
Can't we vote on it now?
Oh, wait.
under new
no, it's
business?
on the agenda.
When is the next meeting? Wait,
Yeah,
what is,
put it on
no,
the
I'm at the
agenda.
next meeting. We have one more in January. I have a month till I leave the
Yeah, we have
country.
one in
I
January.
second your
Yes.
motion.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes
Where you going,
4-0.
Mark?
Puerto Rico.
And then the next thing, I just like, I could tell this to Joe separately, but just for the record, I'm gonna ask that I get a copy of the agenda in my mailbox, because 180 pages was long to print out, because it's just, it's too hard. I like having the PDF, I keep them forever on my Dropbox, so I do like that, because I can get rid of this when I'm done and always have it.
Yes,
But,
motion to adjourn.
but just,
All in favor?
Aye.
does everybody agree?